love it.
And welcome to Horror Movies and Shit. I'm your host, Jim, and with me as always is...
Mark with the story of the apocalypse.
Oh, God. Well, before we get to your story, Mark, can we introduce our guest first? It's not all about you.
Well, go ahead.
So, we have one of my autobi authors on now. I have now read 3 of his books, and I love all 3 of them. So, with us today is James Kaine, author of My Pet Werewolf, the prequel Gunther, and Pursuit. Hi, James.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Are you a James or a Jim?
James.
Okay.
Definitely James.
Fair enough. I'm a Jim, so we're good there.
Easy. Jim will be James.
Yeah, exactly.
James.
Right? So, Mark, tell us your apocalypse story.
So you remember, Jim, we had a guest on last week talking about cosmic horror, signs of the apocalypse, right?
Yes, we spoke to Edmund Stone.
We had the eclipse happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I booked 2 tickets for me and my wife to go see The First Omen on Saturday, yesterday.
Okay.
Because although the trailer to me was like, meh, it's got pretty good reviews, and she was interested. Okay, very cool. We'll go see it. Okay.
You haven't heard my thoughts on it yet, so go ahead.
Yeah. So we had that booked, and we were going to go. I get an email on Friday from the movie theater saying, due to technical difficulties, it was canceled, even though the showing after was still available.
Huh.
But we didn't want to go that late. So,
right.
Okay, fine. And I was looking at, Late Night with the Devil is playing, Jim.
You still haven't seen that? So James, wait, hang on. We got to pause for a story here. James, we were lucky enough to get a copy of a screener for that movie.
Oh, nice.
This asshole didn't watch it.
Well, to be fair, my roof was collapsing at the time. So.
that is fair.
So I was like, even though it's coming on Shudder soon, just want to go see it anyway because it looks really interesting.
Right.
So we get there and, having a good time, 20 minutes in, really enjoying it. Then the fire alarm goes off in the movie theater 20 minutes in. Actually, at a really great time in the movie, it was almost like, they had planned it.
Right.
So we had to get out of the movie theater, and then I was going to go see Civil War today, but they're still closed. So I was supposed to see 2 movies this weekend, so nothing.
Well, you failed at life this week, Mark.
It's just the apocalypse. Yeah.
Yep. Can we stop talking about you now?
James, you want to talk about me?
You guys can go as long. I'm just here for the ride, man. What we want to talk about, I'm good.
I want to talk about you because somebody just gave me some information that I have not been able to verify yet, and I need you to confirm it.
Okay.
I understand that you have script credits somewhere.
All right. So I got some producing and directing and writing credits. This may shock you. James Kaine's actually a pen name. I don't know if I'm ready. I don't know if I'm ready to reveal my government name, but it's honestly not that hard to find. But yes, I dabbled in film before I decided to get into writing novels, and I ended up 22 years ago. I did a short film, got to play out in Vegas, LA, and New York, and then just recently, about a year and a half ago, my son got into acting. And as part of that, I reconnected with my old buddy Russ, who was a great actor. Has been in a lot of films. He actually got my son James. That actually is his legitimate name.
Okay.
He's signed to a company called Creative Artists Management Company, and he's gotten some auditions. He's gotten some shows. He was on an episode of Evil Lives Here, that documentary show.
Nice. And
I just produced a short film for him. That premiered at the Garden State Film Festival, so we're still working on some of that stuff right now.
That's fantastic and amazing.
Yeah, it's great. In fact, James is shooting a show for HBO tomorrow.
Really?
He's in one episode of an upcoming show. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about it, but it's a pretty big deal, some A-list actors in it. So, small scene, one, but I swear to God, what this kid's going to make for a freaking one scene with like 2 lines of dialogue, he'd be the main breadwinner in the house based on that one
That
scene.
is fantastic.
But he's a great,
Congratulations.
thank you. He's a great little actor, and I'm happy I can help and produce and get these films out there.
That's
I am not
amazing.
jealous at all. I'm very jealous.
Yeah, we know, Mark. You work in risk management. You're jealous of everything because you're afraid to do anything.
That was my I guess career too. I was a compliance officer at a major bank, and
Oh,
You guys have more in common than we
it's a
thought.
small bank, but
so we'll maybe change the subject of this podcast to compliance
No.
risk management in
No.
the banking industry.
yeah,
We're
no,
not-
I'd much rather not.
Yeah,
Sorry.
let's not do that. So, Mark, what'd you do?
What?
You
What do I
disappeared.
do?
What happened? No, you disappeared.
No,
You said,
I
what
know.
did you do?
I don't like looking at myself.
That's fair.
Mickey
So,
Dog.
James,
Yeah, and I know who told you that too about that, because honestly, because I told Tim King today that if I had the cash, I would buy the rights to Seven Rabbits and film it. I would absolutely do that.
so I read your post. I read your post today, and I messaged him. I'm like, "Did you read that?" And he's like, "I did just now."
Yeah, he
That
totally
was
killed
awesome.
my productivity today. I sat down this morning. I've been trying to read in the mornings because like I'm way behind. If it ain't an audiobook, I'm not listening. So
Right.
I was trying to read. I finished up Survivor by J.F. Gonzalez yesterday. I read that for like 3 hours and finished it because I've been reading that for months. And I was like, I'm just gonna sit the hell down. I'm gonna do it. And
Right.
then because I wanted to get to Tim's book, because it's all over. It's fantastic. It's gotten amazing buzz.
Yep.
And I'm like, I gotta read this. And I sat down today. I'm like, I'll read 2-3 chapters. Then I'm gonna go right. And next thing you know, it's like 3-4 hours later, and I read the whole damn thing.
Right. It is a fantastic, and it's a quick read too. Like
It is.
You get totally lost in that story. But
Yeah,
enough about Tim. That's another
Yeah,
episode.
hell of a thing.
Right. Let's talk about you. So,
Okay.
I found you on Facebook, in one of the Books of Horror groups. I don't remember if it was the Freeview one or the regular one, and you were
Mhm.
talking about Pursuit. I think you had just changed the cover.
Yes.
So I got a copy of Pursuit that you
Mhm.
were kind enough to send me, and I loved it. It's sort of, I like the way Tim explained it, where it's Ghost Rider meets Terminator. I thought that was pretty accurate.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
that was your first book, right?
Yes. Yes.
What did that journey look like for you?
Well, so I always, like you said, I was trying to do the film thing for years. I wrote a couple unproduced screenplays. One of them I got in front of, and I can't remember the guy. Actually, I think the guy's name was Tim, but he was working with Eli Roth and like in a production assistant role, and I had gotten a script in front of him, and he was very complimentary of it. His exact words were, "Man, you can really write, but this story is just not for us." It was a creature feature, not a werewolf, but it was something else. And then I wrote a few more, and I was just kind of always dabbling with that, but I kind of more focused on family, get married, have a few kids, and working in banking because I needed something that actually paid me money.
Right.
And so I was doing that for a long time. And then I guess during COVID, I kind of started to feel a little burnt out on the whole corporate thing. My kids were getting older, we're kind of getting set. And after that, it was just like I just want to start doing this, and that's kind of when I started looking into some alternate ways. Maybe see if there's extra money out there. And that's the funny thing. I was doing very well in banking, but it's never enough. But so
Right.
I was looking at some other stuff, and then I came across, I think on Reddit, like a self-published forum, and I learned about Kindle Direct Publishing. And I'm like, oh man, this sounds cool. Let me try it. I wrote a couple shorts, put it out there under a different name. Nothing unpublished now. Nothing you'd ever find because it was just terrible. But as I started going, I was like, I've always been a horror guy. I got the typical horror writer story. I was 10 years old. I saw Tim Curry in It. I saw that miniseries. I went out and bought the book at 10 years old. I read the whole book. I shouldn't have read it at 10, but my parents didn't know any better.
Yeah.
And I read every Stephen King book I can get my hands on. It's like I am literally the meme that all of us read a Stephen King's book, and this is the way we are.
Right.
So I ended up I said, I've always wanted to be a horror writer. I tried writing, I think, my first horror novel when I was like 12 years old, and I just keep trying. I never finished. I never finished. I never finished. And then um, I had this idea about 10 years ago. It was a screenplay originally. Because I was still thinking I was going to do the movie thing, query agents, things like that. And I was one day I sometimes I would drive down Atlantic City for a day, just go play for a couple hours, come back. It was a little stress release. And I was coming down Route 539 in New Jersey, which is a very wooded road, takes you through the Pine Barrens. And as I was behind me, there was this dude on a motorcycle. This dude was just going out for a ride, but he's just like all black motorcycle on black helmet, like kind of ominous looking.
Right.
And like, oh man, what if this dude was up to no good? And I kind of had the starts of a story there. And over the next 10 years, I tried a screenplay, tried a novel, tried blah, 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 blah. So when COVID hit and I was kind of trying to figure out what that, if I was going to keep on my path or do something else, I said, let me write this book. Let me put this out there. Let me do this for real. So I incorporated or formed Horror House Publishing because I wanted to actually do it right, have a publishing company. Even as a publishing company of one, it looks a lot more legitimate than just, hey, this dude just put his book out here. And which, unfortunately, there's plenty of people that do that they're fantastic, but it's still got that stigma. So I did it, and I wrote it. There you go, my man. So I did it, and I got it done, and I published it, and I was terrified when I hit submit, but I did it, and here we are.
How do you feel about it now that it's been out for a while?
I feel good about it. It was actually well received. It was not a success by any measure because in a lot of ways I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
I changed the cover 3 times. The first time I had a cover, this is the original cover. It's kind of cool, but Amazon wouldn't let me advertise it because of the bloody machete.
Right.
So I ended up, then I changed it, and then I did this one, which is a little more. But the problem is that people tended to think that it was a thriller. I don't think it really, I didn't do a good job necessarily conveying the slasher tone of it.
Right.
Which is why I changed the cover. And it was a learning experience. And yes, there you go. And in writing it, I think I did a good job. I think I dragged my feet a lot, as I tend to do at times. And it as it went along, I do think if I could do it again, there's things I would change, enhance, redo. In fact, funny story is there was an entire plot line, a subplot that I totally forgot about. I set it up and then I forgot it. Because early on, Jeremy, the protagonist's husband, she's asking him about his job and did he take it, and he's kind of stoic about it. And his father's an asshole, but he's a rich asshole, and he owns a company. And there was supposed to be that Jeremy had actually accepted to work for his dad. And like, in fact, when they went to the diner, if you remember the diner scene,
yep.
Their card would have been declined, and they would have made them wash dishes, which I don't even know if that's a real thing. That was always in movies in like the 80s. Your card got declined, you had to go wash dishes.
Right.
I didn't know if that was real or not, but I was going to include that. And that's when the riders showed up and slaughtered the place.
Right.
But I finished writing. I'm like, oh shit, I totally forgot about that subplot. So it was a learning experience in a lot of ways, but it was pretty well received. I mean, once I got it where it needed to be, and I changed things and I updated it. I started doing some advertising. The ratings kind of went up, and it's never been a big seller for me, but it's always going to kind of have a special place in my heart because it was my first book, and it was what started me on this journey.
Of course, absolutely. And I thought it was a solid book. I enjoyed reading it. I didn't have any complaints about it at all, really.
Wow.
Thank you.
Yeah,
What?
you don't know what that means, James. Jim is very critical of everything.
I believe it. I believe it.
I
I watched a couple of the clips and the TikToks and things like that, so I am honored that you liked it. And, and eventually I'm probably going to revisit that world, and I might even, I think if I ever do a sequel, I might put out an enhanced edition of the first one and kind of put some more of the details in and fix some of the things that I might George Lucas it, so to speak,
Right.
Put some really bad
You're going to CGI'd all the guns, and now they're all walkie-talkies.
Yeah, I'm going to CGI the shit out of it.
So Next up, your next book after Pursuit is my personal favorite so far. It's called My Pet Werewolf.
Mm-hmm.
That
Yes.
is, I Mark, you've got to read this book, or at least listen to the audiobook, because this is the second book where you probably could almost consider it YA, sort of like Clown in the Cornfield, because they're teenagers, technically, but it does not have that vibe about it at all.
Well,
It's
I don't think YA is just, oh, there's teenagers in it, so it's YA.
Right.
I do think a lot of booksellers do consider it that, though, because like
Well,
Clown in a
yeah,
Cornfield gets that too, but it's not.
they eviscerate a bunch of teenagers.
Right. Like
Yeah.
Tim's book, it,
Right. Yep. Which technically, I guarantee you're going to find somebody putting it in the YA section somewhere. I
yeah,
guarantee
definitely, and they're gonna traumatize someone.
Yeah, absolutely. So, My Pet Werewolf follows a brother and sister. The brother finds a werewolf chained up in a cave.
Oh,
And I actually talked to James about this while I was reading it. And the brother does not always make a good decision, but he always thinks he's making the right decision. And that's what I really appreciated about him, is he always thought he was doing what was right for his family, not what was good. So he was sort of morally gray. And I really enjoyed that about the character. And I don't want to ruin this for anybody, so I'm not going to go too far into the plot or any of that. But
is there a snoot boop in it?
there is no snoot boop.
No
No,
Snoop Boop. No,
no.
Maybe in a sequel I'll work one in, but for now, no.
Yeah, there wasn't in the prequel either.
Yeah, but
So-
maybe some.
So why werewolves, James?
I've always loved werewolves. They've been my favorite monster since I can remember. I remember sitting in my it was in my kitchen. We had a little TV, like a 13-inch TV in our kitchen. This is the 80s, and back in
We all
Trenton.
remember the 80s.
And yeah, and it was I remember 1987, the first year that the Fox Network was on the air. They had a show called Werewolf.
Yep.
And it was basically the Incredible Hulk, but a werewolf.
Right.
And it was followed a college student. His friend comes and tells him he's a werewolf. He doesn't believe him. Ends up getting bit. Ends up killing his friend. And he has to find the bloodline. And it was a great show. I loved it.
It was. Yep.
I was hooked from there on out. It's a tragedy that has not been released on Blu-ray or any kind of physical media or streaming. But there's actually two artists that had music in critical scenes, and they couldn't separate it. So it's never seen the light of day in any kind of. It's on YouTube, but it's never any quality copy out there. Right. And since then, I was just hooked. I loved Silver Bullet, American Werewolf in London, The Howling. Later on, Dog Soldiers. All these werewolf movies, and I just always. What was that?
Twilight.
No, definitely not. That was the
Jim.
Yeah.
What?
Which one?
What, Jim? Are you offended?
I'm not happy that you brought that shit up. No.
As I said in the afterword, I don't want to yuck anyone's yum when it comes to werewolves, because I know there's a big romance contingent, and there's actually part of me that sometimes wonders because I said this, I made a joke because when in books of horror, somebody said they had actually avoided it because it sounded YA. And I'm like, yeah, here, this asshole here. I had this gory, disturbing werewolf book that I titled My Pet Werewolf. That people are going to think it's YA or that they're keeping a pet for reasons, So I try to, so I'm like, oh man, I wonder if people have actually bought it because of that. And actually, I know there have been a few, because there's been a few that have bought it and said, I was expecting a romance, but I actually kind of like this. So I took that as a very high compliment. But in past years, it's like horror is werewolves just seem to disappear. And I'm like, well, all right, well, if nobody's going to do it, then I will. And I know there's some great people doing it out there, and there's some, but it's just not as prevalent as you'd think. And it's such a great monster. It can be so tragic and so scary, and and there's just not enough modern werewolf horror. So I wanted to kind of contribute to the genre, and that was why I ended up doing it.
And that's sort of the reason I enjoyed My Pet Werewolf so much. Is I had this conversation on TikTok with another creator where he asked about romance and werewolves, and my response to him was, there's no romance with werewolves. It's not sexy to be a werewolf. The whole draw of a werewolf is that they cannot control that about themselves. The animal takes over, and there's nothing you can do about it. You're just going to be what it's going to be. And
Mm-hmm.
that's part of the horror of the curse, right? And you did that beautifully.
Thank you.
Even with Gunther, right? So
Mhm.
Tim and I had this conversation while we were listening to Gunther, the audiobook, where I have this thing. I really don't like sex in books, like especially if it's just gratuitous. But I fully understood the point in Gunther. Like it was those scenes are designed to show his devolution, right, into the animal that he becomes, and
Exactly.
it does it perfectly. But I just listened to another audiobook by Gregory Ash called Relative Justice, and like every
Mhm.
10 chapters there's a graphic sex scene for no reason other than to
Right.
throw in the smut.
Right.
And to me that's just boring. I don't need that.
Right.
Well, we all know why, Jim,
Oh, why is that, Mark?
because of your early childhood experience with sex.
Oh God.
By the way,
James doesn't know this, Mark.
no, yeah, I know, but
Do you want to tell him the story now?
no, go ahead, Jim. You said much better than I did.
Well, I don't know which story you're referring to, so you enlighten
That's
me.
bad. So little Jimmy, and his mom,
Oh, oh God. Go ahead.
they used to have like movie night.
Yes.
You know, when he was like 7 or 8 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So little Jimmy and his mom said, "Hey, Jimmy, come sit down here beside me. Let's get some popcorn."
There
She
was
puts
never
in the
popcorn.
she puts in the VCR, right? Because I'm sure it's a video, right?
It was HBO.
And oh, it's an HBO. Okay, I
It
apologize.
was on the cable box.
And little Jimmy at 6, 7 years old, and his mom watched The Entity. James, have you seen The Entity?
I know, but I've heard of it, and I think I know what you're calling.
So
See,
basically, the whole movie is about Barbara Hershey being raped by a ghost.
yes.
Yeah.
So Jim doesn't like anything with sex in it anymore.
I thought I really did. I didn't think that's where you were going to go with this. I thought you were going to go to my movie theater experiences, Mark.
The popcorn.
No, the movie theater experiences that we've talked about.
I know. Uh, there's so many. There's so many things to talk about. Jim's childhood. That explains so much.
What I'm referring to, James, since you probably have not heard the story yet, is there was a time in my life between like 13 and 24 where I would not go to the theater by myself
Mhm.
because every time I did, a man would sit next to me and pleasure himself.
Oh Jesus!
Yeah.
Same
So-
guy.
No. That would be worse. So those are my two therapy sessions with Mark so far.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is about that is I think all of us little psychopaths that got into horror young, we were exposed to sex young, and it was weird, especially when you're reading Stephen King books. And I got to tell you, when I read it when I was 10 years old, the scene, which we all know, went over my head.
Exactly.
It went over my head. But there were other scenes in it. Like very early on, there's a scene where Beverly is having sex with her husband and she doesn't want to. And I'm like, feels
Weird.
different.
Yeah.
And then there was, but I remember there was, it was hilarious. And I'm going to share this with you. I probably shouldn't. But there was a scene where Eddie is actually talking about how some of the older boys told him what sex actually was. And it's totally wrong.
Right.
But I read it and I thought I was hot shit, so I went to school the next day and I told all my friends, like, "Yo, I found out what this is, and like this is it." And it's like it was completely wrong.
But James, imagine you're laying in bed and your mom's reading it to you. That's James' childhood.
I don't. But that's the thing. Like I told Mark, when I saw that movie, The Entity, with Barbara Hershey, I didn't understand the graphic essay stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I saw her laying in bed and went, oh my God, how are they making it look like somebody's touching her?
Right.
How are they doing that? I didn't understand the essay part of it at all.
So Jim, what's that big river in Egypt?
The Nile.
So in honor of this, I did design a logo that I cannot put anywhere except on mugs when I make it that says horror movies and shit. It's better than Ghost Rape.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Is it really though?
Oh God.
I think so. Not by much though.
So James, I know you said to Jim, "Hey, you might be a little bit of a potty mouth, and is anything off limits?"
Mm-hmm.
I now.
Yeah.
You always want to make sure because like I'm Italian. I just let the F bombs fly a lot.
Yep. Me too.
I try not to, but sometimes I just can't help it.
Just let
I
them
do
fly.
prefer to
It's
swear.
okay.
Yeah,
There's no
fuck
kids
it.
here, and I always put it under explicit, so no children are listening to this podcast.
That's
Well,
good. Good. Especially since they're talking about ghost rape.
Yeah, exactly.
It's crazy though because like at least that was like an R-rated movie and it wasn't intended for kids. But then you
Right.
got Dan Aykroyd getting blown by a ghost in Ghostbusters for a PG
Right.
movie that everybody loves. And it's crazy.
So
Uh-huh.
the 80s were a different time, man.
They really are.
Man,
really
they
are.
produced a generation. I'll tell you.
Mm-hmm. They did. I'm still not sure how I feel about that generation, though. I know I'm part of it, but I don't know how I feel about it.
Hey, we don't crap everything, so.
It just sort of is what it is. So, back to My Pet Werewolf. So you and I talked a little bit about on Facebook about the relationship between the brother and sister.
Mm-hmm.
Where did you get that inspiration from?
I don't necessarily even know per se. It's I do have a brother. He's a lot younger than me. He was 6.5. I mean, I guess not a lot, but 6.5 years younger than me. And we're close growing up, but it wasn't like any of that. And it's weird as a writer because you want to draw. I draw on a lot of my own experiences, like Brady and Ariana. A lot of that is based off of me and my wife. Like their
Yep.
first date was almost our first date to a T.
That hurt. I'm just gonna say that right now. That hurt.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, yeah, I actually, it was funny because in my dedication for Pursuit, I dedicated to Jessica, my wife, and I said, without you, I couldn't authentically write about two people in love, and what I was about to do with them wouldn't be so horrible. But, I think to be a successful writer, you can't just write what you know. I think you can put a lot of what you know in it, and I think that helps. Life experience helps flesh it out, and it helps give depth to the characters. But at the same time, if you just write about you, you might as well just write an autobiography, and that's gonna be boring as shit. So
That's pretty true.
I don't know. I just felt like the theme would be of just trying to protect your family and I think just that sibling relationship, that twin. I mean, I don't know what it's like to have a twin. I don't even know a whole lot of twins, to be honest with you.
Right.
But it just felt like something from, that would be a bond that would give Brady the impetus to move forward and to make these poor decisions, even though he feels are the best for his family, which you summed up beautifully.
Yeah.
So, do you begin with the plot and then put the characters in, or do you have some certain characters and you're like, I wonder what they would do in this situation?
It depends. It always starts with a scenario. Something triggers an idea in my mind. In fact, will laugh at me because like I'll have sticky notes. Like I'll get an idea and I'll be somewhere and I'll just write something down on a napkin or I'll put it in my notes app and then I'll just go to flesh it out later. This particular one came while I was watching Bad Moon, which is, in my opinion, underrated werewolf movie, and it was born out of. If you guys both seen it, I'm sure.
Yep.
Or maybe the scene where the dog goes into the woods and sees the werewolf chained up on a tree. Yep. And my mind is, well, what if a person did that, and what if the werewolf couldn't get out and he turns into a human, and then I'm like, okay, so how can I figure this out? And I came up with the idea of a boy that like, why would somebody do this? And I always ask the questions, and it's like an interrogation in myself. I said, why would somebody do this? And I came up with this story about a boy whose dad had died and he felt guilty, and my dad had actually passed away while I was writing Pursuit, and it wasn't anything. Definitely wasn't my fault. He had, it was 81 and had a severe heart condition, but I was like, what would drive him to make those decisions? What would drive him to want to protect his family? And and then it just came with this character that he was um, trying to fill the role that his father had left by dying when they were kids, when they were 11. And that he felt that he had to protect his sister because his sister's dealing with her grief by kind of acting out and kind of exploring her sexuality and kind of getting a reputation at school. And even Brady admits he's over the top with it, but he's trying to be your brother, but at the same time trying to be your father, because
Right.
the guy that in his mom remarries asshole. So
Yep.
so that's kind of where that part of it came from. And then I just kind of plotted out from there. I always wanted to be a pantser, just start writing like Stephen King and see where it goes, but I never finished anything. So I just had to start, really just writing the plot again and again and again until I figured it out.
So I do have a question. Are we
Mhm.
going to see more of? So I listened to Gunther, and I have the paperback, but are we going to get more prequel?
You're gonna get probably at least one more.
Okay, good, because
Not a full blown prequel. But I'm gonna do. I have a short story collection in mind,
okay,
and I do have a short story with Gunther in between his time and where he's done in Jacksonville, and he ends up in Prince. He does mention where he was before. Sorry, excuse me. He does mention where he was before that.
Yep.
And there's a little bit to right there. I just got to flesh that out a little bit more.
Not gonna lie, that's my only complaint about Gunther, is that it's too short.
So Jim always requests any author that we have on, can you put us in one of your future novels?
I
Absolutely.
do not. I never
Absolutely.
request. I never request that. I have been lucky enough to be included in the third book in the White Harbor trilogy, just because he needs a mass death scene.
Okay. Well,
So-
I'll tell you what. You guys send me lists of do's and don'ts, and I will. I'll see. Send me a list of don'ts, not do's, because I'll figure out how. Just send me a list of don'ts, and I'll figure it out from there.
I just want my character. Yeah, I don't care. I just want my character to be gay. That's it.
You want your character to be gay?
Yeah, my character has to be gay, and that's it. Other than that, you can do whatever you want.
Oh, don't
100%.
make me, that's the only
Absolutely.
thing.
That's easy
What?
enough.
Yeah.
Don't make me gay.
Yeah, Mark's afraid of being gay.
Straight gay, got it. You got it.
And that doesn't matter.
Representation.
Well,
man,
Mark is from Northern Ireland, if that makes a difference.
I
mean, so car bombs are sort of in his history.
Yep.
All right, you're gonna get blown up in a car. Actually, think I got an idea. Just Jim remind me. I got an idea. All right.
I will do that. So we've gone through what you've done. If you had, I'm gonna steal Mark's question here. He asks everybody, if you could cast My Pet Werewolf, who would you cast in your most integral parts? I'm especially interested in the stepdad.
Plus the director.
Plus the director.
Well, if I was to, honestly, ideally, I would love to direct it myself. I don't think that would be possible necessarily. I've never done a big production. I would definitely look to do the screenplay.
Yeah.
I'd say. Let me think. Is a director? Start with a director, though. I'd say, and it's funny because before we came here, me and my wife, I'm making her watch The Guest.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's Ty West.
Yep.
I believe directed that. I like him. I think he'd do a really great job with it.
I think that makes one of us on this podcast.
Yeah. But there's probably but that's just recency bias.
Yeah, of course.
In my head.
Yeah.
Because I liked a lot of the vibe of that.
Yep.
I said, so when I did the audio book, I had to give my thoughts on casting.
Right.
And I said, I saw Brady as Cameron Monaghan from Shameless.
Yep.
He played Ian, and he's done a bunch. He's on Gotham and everything like that. There's no way to say this without sounding bad, but I saw Brandy as kind of a Sydney Sweeney type.
Okay, that's fair.
Because she's leaning into her sexuality, and that's kind
absolutely.
of where it is, And it's like, this is part of this one from Sydney.
Well, and she's an
actress. I mean, if you watch the Euphoria or and then her looks may overshadow it at times in the media, but she's a very talented actress.
She is, and she's got
the is immaculate.
Yeah, I
And
haven't seen that yet.
And
she's got the quiet.
I think she's very good in it. I've not
and
seen her in anything else.
I think she's got the quiet strength of character to pull that off. So
Yeah.
I can totally see that.
Believe it or not, in White Lotus, that was a very
Yes.
good representation of how I saw her. Um,
I'm sorry, James. When you're talking about the guest, are you talking about the one with Dan Stevens in it?
yes.
Yes, Adam Wingard.
Oh, Adam Wingard. Thank you.
Yes.
I,
I
the,
guess
the,
second.
thank you. The Splat Pack. I get them mixed up. Yeah, Adam Wingard. That's more of
I
it. Yes.
love the guest. I think
I'm okay with that
Oh,
guy.
it's fantastic. It is absolutely fantastic.
it's really underrated.
It 100%, 100%. So it was funny, you know. In an early, if he was younger, I could even see Dan Stevens playing Brady. But you know, so for Dennis, the funny thing is, like, I keep going back to somebody actually said in one of the reviews they wanted to see a movie and they could see Christian Bale as Dennis, but I'm like, we're never getting Christian Bale for this.
You
But
could. He does a lot of independent films.
never say never. Never say never. You're right, 100%. But I could see, and I can't remember who I said in it. I actually think my friend Russ that I work with, he'd be pretty good. But it's funny. I could kind of see Glenn Howerton from It's Always Sunny, like because I named him Dennis.
Yeah.
I kind of thought, like, what's this a sociopathic name I could think of? And I thought of Glenn Howerton's character, and that's Always Sunny,
Right.
and that's why I kind of named him that. And then I can't really remember who I thought of for some other ones. Gunther, I would like Tom Pelfrey. I think he's a fantastic actor from Ozark.
Yep.
And he was in Iron Fist and Banshee. Just a huge fan of his.
I probably for Dennis would like to see Jason Bateman type guy play that character.
That could be good. That could be very disarming.
Yes, it could absolutely.
Because the way I wrote Dennis is I want it, and without giving too much away, I want him to have, like, I didn't want to be like an over the top evil stepdad. I want him to kind of be like quiet menace, and that's why I do think a little bit Christian Bale in American Psycho. Yep. Like he's got that, like, you know.
Walter Goggins.
What's that, Mark?
Walter Goggins.
Oh yes, Walter Goggins. Yes, absolutely.
I think he would be that perfect character.
You're 100% right.
Do you know who else I only say this based on the latest work I've seen of his is Adrian Brody could do it too. I think because absolutely. when he did Chapelwaite, he sort of had that turn. It doesn't get as dark as My Pet Werewolf does, but and I have to say the turn that this book takes 3/4 of the way through, right when you start getting towards the climax, because I don't want to spoil it for anybody. I really hope you continue that vibe. And
yeah, I definitely want to. And that was a big thing because as I'm writing this and I'm like 13 chapters in, I'm like, I haven't gotten to the fucking werewolf yet. Like this is like, I'm really testing the reader's patience. And a lot of people are, in fact, I've gotten this more than once that, you know, people have commented actually on my ad that I was running on Facebook and they're like, yeah, man, does this ever pick up? And like, stick with it, I promise. And in both cases, like, holy shit, you were right. But I'm like, man, it was, that's why I wrote the prologue. Like, I didn't necessarily want a prologue, but I knew I had to have something to say. I saw bodies everywhere and blood, and I fucked up big time.
Right.
Because I didn't want them to think, okay, what is this kid's in high school. Okay, he's got a bully. His sister's kind of acting out, and he's in love, and blah, 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 blah. And then, like, well, when's the werewolf coming? And I'm like, it's tough because you really want to, I want you to care about the characters. And if you don't spend time with them, you're not going to care about them. But it's a delicate balance. And I was definitely very nervous when I put this out there.
I did not have that issue at all. Like, I thought the pacing was great. I thought you got it right to where it needed to be before you brought in all the heavy stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's not like it was not present. It just wasn't the focus of the story up until it takes the turn.
Yeah, because you need to reward that patient, but you need to give them a hint of what's to come, and that's kind of like with Dennis being a little weird, and you know, the scene in the laundry room, and I'm like, you know, because I felt icky writing it, so I want you to feel a little icky reading it.
Yeah.
So
there's definitely that. Mark?
Yes.
Any questions?
How about Gary Busey? James.
Gabby's probably a little too old, right?
Yeah,
It's
he's too old
a
now.
little crazy. I don't want to talk about butter sausage all the time.
To the old Stephen King werewolf. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll tell you, it was funny because I didn't realize until after. I think it was when I was reading it back after I got the final version back from the editor. I'm like, man, there is a lot of Silver Bullet influence in this. Not necessarily the novella, but the movie.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize. Like, I was like, oh wait a minute, Brady was Marty's best friend in Silver Bullet.
Yep.
And it's actually funny because I'm actually running a contest on my Facebook page. Jimmy probably saw it. I said there's 5 werewolf movie references in it.
Yes.
There's one for The Howling, one for American Werewolf in London, 2 for Silver Bullet, and the last one's escaping me at the moment. But there's basically 5, and I said if anyone that gets all 5 will get a signed hardcover. And the American Werewolf in London one is so hard that it's a little bit unfair, but my page, my rules. So if you get it,
Right.
I would,
out the copy, it's just a little fun thing. And if somebody gets it, they certainly deserve it.
Right. That's fair.
But yeah, there was a lot of Silver Bullet, the sibling relationship, and some other things in there. That
So I do have one other question.
Uh-huh.
When are we getting this put on merch?
yeah, well, that's I mean, I got the stickers I kind of give out for free.
But I need a
I can't
T-shirt.
I do have a lot of merch. I probably gotta work it in at some point. I do have my Pet Werewolf / t-shirts.
Yeah.
It says my wife's actually wearing it right. Well, she was wearing it. She changed it before, but it said My Pet Werewolf on the front, and then there's 3 slashes like somebody ripped your back open on the back.
Is that on your shop?
It's in my shop. Yep.
I'm gonna have to go look for that then.
Yeah, absolutely. It even comes in 3 different skin tones because I want to make sure. I want to make sure everybody can. If you like it and you want to wear it, I want to make sure it matches you.
I bought both of Tim's T-shirts.
Nice. Yeah, I got all. In fact, I got this one here.
I like it.
My Monster Squad inspired James Kaine rules shirt. And
Yeah.
I
like it. So, okay, what's next?
What's next? All right. So right now I have I'm working on the first in my what I'm calling my American Horrors anthology series.
Mm-hmm.
I had seen an article about top 50 top urban legend from each state in the country. I'm like, oh, good, you just gave me 50 ideas. This is awesome.
Right.
So the first one, which I'm writing now, is called The Dead Children's Playground. It's about a real place in Huntsville, Alabama, that was a cemetery, a playground next to a cemetery. And in the cemetery, apparently Huntsville got hit very hard by the Spanish flu in 1918.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of kids buried there that died in the pandemic, and they say at night the playground comes alive with their ghosts. So I'm writing a book about that.
So you're doing a ghost story. That could be fun.
Yes, it is, and it's very different in that it's not very gory. There's no sex in it.
Right.
But it's very. I want to go for more of an unsettling, creepy tone,
Right.
a very emotional tone. So it's very different than the things I've written before. So it's fun, and then I'm eventually going to do as many as I can. I've got the first probably 3 at least planned out in the series.
Are you doing the skunk ape when you get to Florida?
Which one?
The skunk ape?
I don't know that one.
It's the Florida Bigfoot.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, you got to tell me about that because I might.
It's definitely
funny,
interesting.
a reader in Books of Horror told me about the Louisiana werewolf, which is called the Rougarou. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but
yeah, you are.
I'm going to do one about that. And I think after this one, not right away because I have other stuff in between, but in the American Horrors, it's going to start with The Dead Children's Playground.
Yep.
Then it's going to go to George Corwin, who was the sheriff during the Salem witch trials.
Yep.
And then probably going to do the Jersey Devil at that point because I'm from Jersey. I didn't want to start with that because that seems like a little obvious. And then after that, we'll see where I go with that. So,
nice.
But that's the next one.
Okay.
And then after that, I have I'm actually going to be announcing it tomorrow on socials, but I did send you a little preview before.
You did.
I'm going to be rewarding my fans who do like the blood and gore with my first, I guess, full blown splatterpunk novel,
Nice.
which is going to be called Black Friday,
I cannot
and
wait.
it's coming out on Black Friday. Assuming I get it done and edited in time, but
Wait, James, is there going to be lots of like explicit gore and violence in that?
100%.
Oh
That's
no,
what splatterpunk is, Mark.
No. I just like PG-13 stuff.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, then you go back to the Dead Children's Playground. That's more for you.
Yeah, that's more for you.
Of course, F bombs, but not a lot of blood and gore. A little bit, but not a lot.
Just keep in mind, James, this is coming from a guy whose favorite horror movie is Martyrs.
Yeah, I love Martyrs.
Yeah,
love Martyrs. No, this one is going to be pretty gnarly. It's going to follow a group of people that are all invited to this contest on Black Friday, and in a shopping mall by a prominent YouTube celebrity. And they're basically, when they get there, they think they're going there for a chance to win $1 million, and they can. But once they get there, they tell them the only way you win $1 million is if you're the last person alive. And oh, by the way, if there isn't a winner by 4 a.m., the whole place is going to explode. And when one of them tries to escape, there's snipers at every exit. So they're basically trapped in this mall, and they have to fight their way out to death.
Kind of like
it's like
Exactly.
I was going to say it's a retail Hunger Games.
So what?
It's a retail Hunger Games. Can't wait.
Kind of, yeah.
It's just a battle royale, Jim.
I've not seen Battle Royale, Mark, so I don't understand the reference.
Not shocked.
I'm familiar. I've never seen it. I am familiar with it in the concept, but it was fun. This one I actually got the idea when I watched Eli Roth's Thanksgiving.
I was going to ask you about that
scene in the thing. I was like, oh man, someone's got to do this. Some writer's got to take this and do a whole book about it or movie about it. Like, all right, well, I guess I'll do it. So,
right, there you go. If you don't find what you want.
I saw Eli last weekend. He was at a convention I went to.
Lucky you, Mark.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't meet him, but I saw him.
You saw him? Yeah, he got to breathe the same air, so he feels honored.
I would too.
Yeah, right?
I'd like to meet him someday.
Who wouldn't? I mean, he's very, very smart. Yeah. And he's got some great movies out, so I'm happy with it.
Absolutely.
I'm actually not a big fan of Eli Roth.
Nobody asked you.
I like I like a couple of his movies, but some of them, like, when you get to like Green Inferno and stuff, it's just such a lame retelling of Cannibal Holocaust that you kind of.
I actually enjoyed the Green Inferno, but I've only seen it once. But I was like, all right, it's cool.
Mark is of the class where the remake spoils the original.
Look! I met Ruggero Deodato on a couple of the cast of Cannibal Holocaust.
Woo-hoo. Nice.
I guess with remakes, it's like, for me, it's like either if it's good, I'll enjoy it. You get the Dawn of the Dead's out there. The Thing is a remake, but if it's terrible, I just don't have to acknowledge it.
That's fair.
Mm-hmm.
So, James, when it comes to horror, what is your favorite movie?
Halloween. Halloween was the one for me. It was just
the Rob one, James.
What was that?
The Rob Zombie one.
No. There are parts of the Rob Zombie one that I can appreciate. I think the ideas are there. I think the execution wasn't. I think a lot of it was Haddonfield was supposed to be this middle class suburban area. Mm-hmm. Not everybody needed to be a long haired redneck that cursed all the time. Right. I think the characterizations were way off and the dialogue was way off. But I think the idea, I think Rob Zombie's Halloween handled the brother sister aspect better than any of the sequels. Whereas that was his one connection to his humanity, and that's why he had to go find her. And then when she rejected him at the end, that's when he went crazy. It was a good idea, just poorly executed.
Yeah, to me, like the Rob Zombie one, he tried to have his cake and eat it, right? So he tried to make Michael Myers this prototypical serial killer. You're raised in this shitty house with blah 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 blah, and then you're bullied and blah 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 blah, and you're killing small animals.
Mm-hmm.
and then you jump forward, and now he's 7 foot tall and can teleport. Yeah,
Right.
you're either trying to ground it or you're not. I mean,
Yeah.
just pick one or the other. But as you said, like not every fucking place has to be a white trash.
Right.
And that Rob Zombie all the way through his career.
Right, and it was very hard to believe that the house that Michael Myers grew up in was the same town that Laurie Strode and her friends were in, because it was just completely different. And it was very. But I think he would have been much better suited for a Texas Chainsaw remake.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, because
that's his wheelhouse.
House of a Thousand Corpses is basically a Texas Chainsaw.
Pretty much, yeah, exactly.
And that's the only Rob Zombie movie I like. Is House of a Thousand Corpses. Because he had the aesthetic right, he had the characters right, he did a lot right in that film. Everything else I do not care
he
for.
almost found the sweet spot of The Devil's Rejects, where he still has that Texas Chainsaw Massacre thing, but he actually does a pretty good job of the Quentin Tarantino thing. And then the rest of his movies are pretty awful.
I think he was born. I think he started making movies in the wrong decade. I think he definitely belonged in the 70s.
Yeah,
well, the funny thing is, like, he grew up in like a rich neighborhood, right? But he almost like wants to portray himself as this sort of, hey, I'm just the regular poor kid that got rich or whatever. Like, no.
I will say, regardless of his movies, I do love his music.
Oh yeah,
so I do appreciate that about him. Just his movies are not for me.
I'm not a big fan. I would like to see him direct. I would like to see him direct something that he doesn't write.
I have seen your taste in music, and I don't put any stock in what you say about music.
Oh, shut up, yacht rock.
There's nothing wrong with some good yacht rock. I'm just saying. I have no problem with it. No, there's not.
Mark, what's your taste in music? I see the guitar back there.
So I'm more into metal.
Me too.
He likes baby metal though.
What's baby metal? Is that the Korean pop group?
Yes.
It's Japanese. Baby metal are excellent.
I've heard them. They were playing with somebody I heard recently. I go, oh shit! Look at these girls. These girls rock.
Jim, I think you're fighting a losing battle here. We're both in compliance / risk management. We're both into metal, and we're both into extreme horror.
I'm a metalcore guy myself. I like I'm the stereotypical I like everything guy, but I'm a very big metalcore guy.
I'm definitely more the softcore stuff. Not gonna lie, I do enjoy some like Five Finger Death Punch and stuff like that. But
I met Phil Anselmo from Pantera.
Nice. Yeah, I got. You can't see over there. I got my guitars over there. I got a signed Falling in Reverse guitar signed by Ronnie Radke. I got and then I got a Fender, a couple other things, but
nice.
Jim, where's your guitars?
I don't have any guitars, Mark.
Oh,
I know. For the record, I have them. I'm not very good, but I do.
Yeah,
they look cool.
And I do have my. Where is it? My. You can't see it from there. I'll have to grab it.
No, but
my favorite horror memorabilia ever.
Nice. I was looking for, because Jim, I do have that face hugger, the stuffed face hugger back there.
Oh, do you? This one?
Yeah. I think I gotta have a loot crate actually.
Yeah, that's exactly where it came from.
Yeah. My wife subscribed me years ago. I got the Freddy Krueger chopsticks too.
Yep, but I have this other one here that's fully posable.
Oh, that's nice. I like that.
I got that off Temu for like $5.
Nice.
But anyway, so Mark, we were going to talk about some movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got a brain dump for me?
Which ones?
Werewolf movies. We talked about this.
Werewolf movies.
No, I said werewolf movies.
Teen Wolf? Is that what we're talking about?
That's on some lists.
I mean, who knew that werewolves were so good at basketball?
Who knew? The 80s knew. That's who.
I guess it makes sense if you think about it.
So, you know the funny thing?
because werewolves can jump, right?
So, Jim, remember we went on to Matthew's podcast?
Yes.
About werewolves?
Yes,
I wrote a whole screed about werewolves and what they mean and like trying to dissect them intellectually about, hey, this is what a werewolf is, and these are analogs of werewolves in today's kind of media.
Okay, we don't want any of that shit. I just want to hear what movies you like.
So, I think there's a lot to talk about with werewolves, right? Like just
There
the
is, but I just
I,
want to know what movies you like.
I don't care what you want.
Well, our three subscribers don't want to hear that shit either.
So let's start it off with my favorite, and James, you mentioned it already, and I met what's his name from it, is An American Werewolf in London, which I saw when I was way too young to see it, and I think I went down. I vividly remember this. I went down to the one video shop with my mom, and I'm like, oh, can I watch this one? And it was American Werewolf in London, and I watched it by myself, and I don't think she knew what it was.
So, just so we're aware, your trauma is caused by graphic violence. Mine is by graphic sex. Is that where we're going with this?
No, there's sex in it too, Jim.
Yes, I know. Just not like ghost rape.
Well, nothing like Ghost Rape.
Right. Just evisceration.
Just Nazi demons.
I know that was a fun scene.
That was something. That was
Yeah.
something.
I remember the first time I ever saw that scene, I was like, am I still watching the same movie? What is this?
So I have a question before we go on with An American Werewolf in London. James, what do you like as far as werewolves? Bipedal or on all fours?
Bipedal, 100%. I that all fours disappoints me unless it's kind of like the American Werewolf in London. That's cool, but like when you look at like Wolf with Jack Nicholson, he turns into an actual wolf. That doesn't do it for me. I just like no. I want the bipedal, like the Howling or Dog Soldiers. That's my jam.
So
Jim?
I will tell you, I don't care. I really don't. It doesn't make a difference to me. I did, however, read a series of books that summed up the difference perfectly, and this is actually really what I like. If the wolf walks on all fours, they have some control over themselves when they're in wolf form. If they're bipedal, they have none, zero.
See, I think if they're on all fours, they can just get you quicker.
Fair.
Yeah, and also when I say also on when you go with the Wolf Man, where it's just a dude where he's just got some like chops and fangs, like it's all right, but it's not. No, I want the monstrous 1987 Fox werewolf. That's what I want.
You want one that's 9 foot tall on his back legs. Yeah.
If you look at the original Lon Chaney Wolfman, right, he strangled his victims.
Right.
That's what a wolf like, is it?
Exactly.
I mean, who knows?
You will strangle somebody, Jim. Have you?
I can't say I've ever been party to a wolf attack before.
No.
Or otherwise.
Oh, okay. So you've never seen a wolf strangle somebody?
I've never not seen a wolf strangle somebody. Can you prove that they don't?
That's a double negative, Jim.
What?
You know. It's funny though. I'll tell you this. And you guys tell me if this drives you crazy too. And like, it happens a lot in vampire movies and werewolf movies. When at the end the protagonist is fighting the werewolf or the vampire, and they're clearly human and they're clearly outmatched, instead of just ripping their fucking head off, the werewolf or the vampire will grab them and throw them across the room.
Yeah.
Or cook them.
I hate that they play with their food. Right?
Exactly.
They've been vicious through the whole thing, but this one person they're going to play with.
Yeah, but it's because you gotta make it so the protagonist doesn't. I'll be honest, I did it myself, but I did reference it. I said I didn't know why the hell did he throw me instead of just ripping my head off.
Right.
So I wanted to lean into that stereotype.
So here's a general question, because I think, like with a werewolf, the whole thing is antithesis of the victim as being the human who is turned into a werewolf. Is there any movies or books where it's a bad guy or a bad girl already, and then they turn into a werewolf?
Yes. Wolf Hunt by Jeff Strand.
So they're already a bad person, and
yeah, it's about these two criminals that are transporting a hitman or some sort of criminal named Ivan, who is a werewolf already. And then he gets loose and they have to hunt him down. And
because
he was a bad guy before he turned.
because I think the whole dichotomy of werewolves is really about this is an innocent person who can't control themselves, right? And we're
Uh,
supposed to feel sorry for
but
that
that's not
person
true.
because they can't control themselves.
That's not true because our guest right now has somebody. Well, I don't want to ruin anything, but
Oh, Jesus Christ.
our,
Yeah,
our our author friend here, James, might explore that in his book.
it's part because if you read Gunther, it's very much about a good man and
Yep.
how the curse makes, and before he even sprouts fur, how the curse kind of fucks him up and makes him,
Yep.
more aggressive, more making bad choices in a way, and but also there's also I've also explored what if a really bad person becomes like there's what happens when a good person becomes a werewolf, and in fact there's even flat out like this person was already good, well what happens when this person was already bad,
Right.
so that's
So,
part of
yeah, so imagine like a serial killer who
it.
gets bitten by a werewolf.
Yep.
Like, just trying to think about that concept. Would that even work?
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely.
Because it would give them the opportunity to revel in what they already appreciate. So
Mm-hmm.
why wouldn't it work?
Because,
Right.
like, to me, in general, I think a werewolf has to be sympathetic.
No, I disagree.
It's
Because
reflection.
when
It's not a choice, right?
I
Well, it
disagree.
depends. It depends. I think if you're writing a book or a movie or where the werewolf is your main character and they're fighting the curse, it's one thing. But if your protagonist is a human that's dealing with the werewolves, I think you could very successfully
Yeah.
deal with a
That
And
werewolf. It depends.
that
Like you don't want to necessarily follow a serial killer that becomes worse
right.
and
unless it's just a pure visceral entertainment.
right, and I mean that in a stereotypical way, right? Because that's how most werewolf things have been written, right? You're supposed to feel sorry for the person who can't control themselves.
I
And
disagree.
if you look at it as far as being alcoholic or in drugs or whatever, and you can look at Jekyll and Hyde and a lot of these sort of things where the person is normally okay, but then they're changed, right?
I'll tell you, one of the coolest concepts of a werewolf, and I think I got it here. Hold on, where is it? Here it is. It's a comic book actually. It's called Wolf Moon. Right,
Mm.
this one is one of the most unique takes on a werewolf you'll ever see because the werewolf isn't one person. The curse is airborne. So, like, there's a scene in the beginning where somebody's in a restroom at a restaurant and they don't know what the hell is happening to them, and all of a sudden they turn to a werewolf and they murder the entire restaurant. But then the next time the werewolf goes into somebody else.
Huh.
So it's like instead of just one person, and it's like, and they even have like a support group because of people that have dealt with this and killed people they loved, and it's one of the
Huh.
coolest concepts and the most unique versions of it I've ever seen.
Well, and that's like so. Mark, we'll give you for instance, like in Silver Bullet, right? The werewolf's not a good guy.
What? Because he's the priest.
Yeah, but I mean, even still, he's not a great guy. You don't feel sympathetic. But even like in Big Bad Wolf, if you've ever seen that, right? The werewolf is not a good guy. The person that's
So,
turning into
so,
the werewolf.
so I think with Lexa Silver Bullet, it's more about like the murder mystery
Right.
rather than like an American Werewolf in London or even a Howling or anything like that, where you're
Right,
supposed
but
to
that
feel sympathy for the people that are turned.
but again, it's all perspective, like James said. If you're supposed to sympathize with the humans being attacked, the werewolf doesn't have to be a good guy. It doesn't matter what their morality is.
Oh, I mean, I think humans are awful, and I love dogs, so I'm always
I'm
a werewolf.
I think I've hit that age where I always sympathize with the killer more than the teenagers now.
100%.
I was talking to somebody about this online the other day, and I think it happened around 24. It's about when I stopped caring about the teenagers in a horror movie.
Right.
Well, they're
Okay,
good.
Mark,
Yes.
movies. Let's talk movies. What do you got?
Okay. So James, do you know what the first werewolf movie was?
The first werewolf movie. I know it ain't the Wolfman. I don't know.
So there was a 1913 silent movie called The Werewolves, where it actually has a Native American girl as the werewolf, and she comes back to life 100 years after her death to look for the ghost of the man who murdered her boyfriend.
Hmm.
I guess this was based on a 1898 novel,
Oh,
but it was one of those movies that was lost in like the fire of Universal back in the day.
geez, yeah. Did not know that.
Yep. Jim, what do you think of
Yes,
that movie? Did you like
I
it?
have not. I haven't seen it.
Well, nobody has.
Clearly.
Okay.
Next, what's next?
Well, like I said, I brought up like the Wolfman, right? And
Yep.
again, this is where we really get that sympathetic character of Lon Chaney Jr., right? And he can't
Right.
control himself, and then he goes around with strangling people with his
Mhm.
claws. But you really have to look back on that, and you have to look at like special effects back then when they did that stop motion type thing of all of a sudden he's getting more and more furry. um, which really, and you can look at the more modern one with Benicio del Toro, which is very similar. Like obviously it's a Wolfman, but they tried to like throw some different things into it. But the CGI is
Yeah, that's the thing. They're remaking one. They're remaking it again. I think
Yes,
I
they
don't know if
are.
Blumhouse is doing it.
Yep, I think it
But
is.
see, I'm a werewolf movie snob because even the ones I like, there's usually something about it that just doesn't make it perfect for me. Like I love Bad Moon, but that CGI transformation, man, is so bad.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
and I think there's a reason why there's not a lot of werewolf movies, right? Because it is difficult to do that makeup, right?
Right.
Either
Absolutely.
CGI or practical. Neither one of them look very convincing, like really,
Yeah.
really.
I mean,
Like
I think
Doctors is maybe one of the better ones, or even Waxworks, if you've seen that. But yeah, I think it's just so complicated and probably expensive.
it is. And that's funny. And that's why when I was talking to Tim today and I said, he's like, yeah, it might be My Pet Werewolf probably be easier to film than Seven Rabbits because it's chronological. No, Seven Rabbits would be much, much easier
Yeah.
because I wouldn't do like honestly, someone could come in and say, I want to do a low budget My Pet Werewolf. I'm like, no, I wouldn't give that out. That who the hell am I to talk? But I'll tell you if somebody approaches me, but I'd want it to look good because there's always something about it that like I said, I think the Howling transformation was excellent, but looking back on it, like it's a little cheesy. The bladder effects under the skin it's always
So
rough and
Yeah, and
so,
it's funny
yeah, and
story
that's
about the Howling, right? Is we went to a convention and I got to meet Dee Wallace, and I always cried when I first saw the Howling at the final transformation scene. I
mm-hmm,
watched it again the other day, and she turns into a goddamn Pekingese,
mm-hmm.
and it's funny as shit. But as a kid, I cried. I felt
And
so bad for her.
I'm going to commit a little bit of sacrilege here. The movie as a whole is a little bit boring.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's a little bit boring. I mean, it's it's a little disjointed and I don't know, but I mean, but I appreciate the transformation for what it was at the time.
Right.
I think a lot of work goes into that transformation part.
Yep.
Right.
But then, whenever you have to have the werewolf doing something, right?
Mhm.
That's where the complications come in, and that's where like American Werewolf in London does a lot of like POV from the
Right.
werewolf point of view, and then just does real quick edits of like the puppet moving along. But
That,
either that or it's CGI, and the CGI just isn't good. It's
that's
just bliss.
that's why I think Dog Soldiers got it mostly right
Mm-hmm.
because, like, even at the end when they're turning, you see the eyes are yellow, you see the fangs, but you don't see the whole process, and they don't CGI it,
Right.
and they shoot it in a way where the werewolves are stalking, like they're moving good. I thought Neil Marshall did a really good job on that. And there was actually another one, a couple more recently. I don't know if you saw Howl. It's I think a British movie.
I have
Uh,
not seen that one yet.
it's basically people trapped on a train
Yeah.
attacked by werewolves, and they're kind of like these weird, almost like these underworld style, where they're kind of jacked and, but but they don't lean, but they're scary, and they
Right.
don't do any of the weird transformations. And then the other one, which got completely ruined by the end, in my opinion, was The Wolf of Snow Hollow. I don't know if you've seen that one.
Not seen that one yet.
This is I forget the guy. The lead was actually the guy that Hawkins shot in Halloween Kills, his partner. He was like the lead in that one.
Right.
And he's like this alcoholic policeman. His dad's chief of police, going through Alzheimer's, and there's this werewolf attacks go on town, and it's gory kills. The werewolf looks great, and then the ending twist just ruined the whole thing for me. But so it's really hard. There's always like one element that kind of just throws it off for me.
Yeah.
I think what Dog Soldiers does the best, again, it's the practical effects, but they put them in stilts.
Mhm.
So they're bipedal, right? But they're huge, right?
Right.
And I think that really elevates. Sorry, it really makes their threat much more imposing than if they were just normal height.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Neil Marshall, I don't know what happened to him. His last couple of movies, like I love Neil Marshall, like Scent, the Dog Soldiers, and some of his other movies were really good. His last couple of movies were dog shit.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm not gonna lie. My favorite, and this is gonna be probably total sacrilege. My favorite werewolf in a movie recently, or for quite a while, is and you probably nobody's seen this movie, so I would not. What?
Twilight?
There's a reason we call it Breaking Wind in this house.
Well, I call it that too. That's funny.
See? No, it's Big Bad Wolf with Kimberly J. Brown. I love the werewolf in that movie. Like he's sassy. He is disgusting. It's like a werewolf Freddy Krueger. It's great.
Really? I gotta check that.
There's lots of swinging wolf.
Oh, wait. Oh, I did see that one. That's like maybe like 10 years ago.
Yep, at least.
Oh, I know exactly what you're seeing, and that was that was somebody that's like relatively B movie famous that played the wolf, right?
So yeah. I forget his name.
I forget his name too, but I've seen him in a million things.
Yeah, he's definitely a character actor for sure.
Yeah. No, I know that because I'm thinking of one particular scene that I'm not going to mention here, but
you can mention it. You say whatever you want to see. Whatever you want to say. It's actually 2006. It's a long time. It's almost 20 years.
Wow.
And the Richard Tyson.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, that's Mike's brother.
No, he's definitely not.
Oh, definitely not.
They look nothing alike.
Yeah, no, nothing at all. But the big thing was, right, because that was Kimberly J. Brown's growing up, essentially, because she plays somebody who's very sexually mature. She drinks. I think at one point she even cusses a little bit. But she went from playing Halloween Town for Disney to this.
Yeah.
So it was sort of a big culture shock for a lot of people.
And she cursed, Jim? Is that true?
She did. It's big for her. You don't understand. Her fan base was 12-year-olds. So to see her in this type of role was a bit intense.
That's what happens though, man. These kids start out with these Disney movies, and then they're like, I'll never be taken seriously, so I gotta do something completely fucking buck wild.
Right.
Which is kind of like, whereas like, I'd rather, with my own son being an actor, first off, whatever's coming out about Nickelodeon and all this other bullshit that's going on in the industry, like, number one, he's never out of my sight on a set.
Right.
And two, I mean, like, I'd rather him do like heavy dramatic stuff now, as opposed to doing that and then feeling like I got to go do all this wild shit just to prove myself,
Well, like, look at what happened with Drew Barrymore. She had all that dramatic stuff when she was a kid, and she still went crazy and started doing all this weird stuff, right? Yeah. All this like Poison Ivy, a whole bunch of other soft. Even Linda Blair went into that softcore Skinamax type world. It's just it's a weird evolution for kid actors, and
it really is.
But that's awesome. What made him? What do you know? What precipitated him wanting to be in acting? Is it just something has he always been dramatic?
No, he wanted. Well, yeah, but that's my wife was, her family is a big theater family, and obviously I'm on the production side. But he ended up he wanted to be a paleontologist since he was like 3 years old. And then a couple years back, my cousin was doing a sitcom, like a local sitcom. For she had done a couple plays, and then she wanted to turn one of the characters into a sitcom. And she needed somebody on their advisory board, and she knew I was in finance and that I had a creative background. So she asked me, "Just sure, I'll help you out." So I went there, and then she asked, "Okay, I need some kids for a birthday party scene." So I'm like, "Okay, well, yeah, my kids will do it. That's fine." And then the day we show up for rehearsal, the one kid that was playing her son in the show, one of the leads, he had just the day before gotten his SAG card, so he couldn't do the project anymore because it was non-union.
Oh.
So she's like, "Okay, I need a boy probably between 10 and 12, preferably Italian, because she's Italian, obviously." She got all nervous about it. She's like, "I don't want to say it's Italian." But, "You're Italian. It's okay. If you need
Right.
Italian, you need Italian. It's whatever." So she said, "Yeah." And then James is looking at me and he's like, "Well, give him a shot." She's like, "I don't know. I don't have nepotism." I'm like, "All right, well, audition him. If you don't like him, you don't like him." She auditioned. Exactly. She auditioned him. She canceled all the auditions, gave him the part. The kid he ended up working with that played his brother in the show was taking acting class with my friend Russ, who I hadn't talked to in years. And then James took 2 acting classes with him. Ended up saying, "Does he have representation?" I'm like, "No." So I was like, "All right, I'm going to get my manager." She signed him within a week, and now
Nice.
he's had auditions for a couple for HBO, a couple for Netflix, J.J. Abrams, and he's
Wow.
on this show on HBO now tomorrow. So it's awesome. Yeah, so it's kind of happened real quick.
Yeah, nice.
Can he come on our podcast, James?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
He's not allowed to drop the F-bomb though, Mark.
He don't care. He's again, we're Italian. We drop it in this house. I
That's
shouldn't,
true.
but we do. But yeah, no, I mean he loves horror movies. Big,
Nice.
got real big into Friday the 13th and Halloween about a year and a half ago, and I took him to see the new ones in the movies, and
My last horror movie convention.
nice, very nice.
That's the one where Mark decided he wasn't going to come down and visit. He's up in his room and they're having a good time, and I'm like in full costume. So one time I only ever went in costume, and he's like, "Okay, well, we'll be coming down. We'll be coming down." 3 hours later, I hadn't heard anything, and I'm getting a tattoo. He's like, "Oh, we're gonna come down," and we just never ran into each other. And then I'm like, "Oh, well, it's time to go." His wife's like, "You've only been here for an hour." I'm like, "It's been 4."
So before I got tatted, I've been through a lot.
Exactly.
Well, it's Shane's fault, Jim.
It is. It's all Shane's fault, and that's okay.
It's
I
my
like
problem.
Shane, so it's okay. So, Mark, you got more movies for us?
Oh yeah, I always have more movies. James, have you seen The Beast Must Die?
Beast Must Die. Is that the one with Christopher Lee, Vincent Price?
Peter Cushing's in it.
God damn it! I keep fucking that up. Now, yes, I knew it was one of them. I knew it was.
And it's really like Agatha Christie's 10 Little Indians, but with a werewolf.
Okay,
And Calvin Lockhart is like the main guy, and it's super 70s disco, awesome mystery, and it's great. And I didn't even realize until like way after that Calvin Lockhart was King Willie in Predator 2.
Okay.
That's The Beast Must Die has the disco break in it, right?
It's got the werewolf break,
Yeah.
where it's got a clock on the screen that gives you 60 seconds to see if you can figure out who's a werewolf.
That's cool. I have heard of that gimmick, and it's really cool to think about.
Yeah, it's really good. Plus, it's got the quadruped werewolf, which I like, which is really just a dog. But it's a really fun time. I really recommend it. It's a bit of a time capsule. Late Phases. Have you seen that?
I have not.
That's the one in the nursing home?
That's the one with the blind guy.
Yeah, I think that's more recent. It's been on Netflix. Yeah. I think I started watching it and I couldn't. For some reason, I just couldn't get into it. I don't know if it was the time or day, but I haven't. I remember starting that one. I haven't finished it.
Ginger Snaps.
Ginger Snaps, yes, classic. Like that one a lot.
The first one's great.
I've seen all 3.
The first one's great. The second one's okay. The third one is terrible.
Yeah, it was a little weird going all the way back, like bringing them back and going into the 1800s and stuff like that.
With the same two sisters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what blew my mind was like one of the sisters was the girl from the It TV.
Yes.
Yes.
That blew my mind too. I'm like, wait a minute, really? It's
Yeah, she
Bev.
was Little Beverly. Yep.
Yeah, it's funny about this one because this one dude that reviewed it, he reviewed My Pet Werewolf. He was talking about how much like his whole review is how much Brandy reminded him of Catherine Isabel from Ginger Snaps.
Yeah, I could see that. I
Yeah.
totally could see that. If she was still the same age she was in Ginger Snap, she'd be a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, she actually would be. Yeah.
Wolf Cop.
Who
Wolf
doesn't
Cop.
love Wolf Cop?
That's Kim Coates, right? Isn't that?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to.
That was a movie which I thought would have been better than what it was. I just
It looks too good to be true. Like it looks this weird, crazy, over the top nonsense.
right.
I'm like, it can't be as good as I think it is.
It's
You
still
know?
a good movie, but and I think there's a sequel.
There is another
the
Wolf
first
Cop.
time was
Yep.
like it was all right.
Mhm.
I was a little underwhelmed.
I liked it a lot more than I thought I would.
Go ahead.
What that reminds me, what was the one
Jimmy?
with Mario Van Peebles and Patsy Kensit back in the '90s? I can't.
Oh,
know what I'm
yes.
talking about, right?
No, I know what you're talking about. Mario and Peebles.
Fully
No.
Clips?
Total Eclipse, yeah. Or Full Eclipse, Full Eclipse.
Fully Clips, yeah.
I was thinking Annie Lennox, Total Eclipse of the Heart.
That's Bonnie Tyler, though.
Yeah, no, I remember that one. That one was kind of weird. And when you said Wolf Cop, it kind of remind. I think they're probably two totally different. But
Yeah.
I did see that one again. That was one of the ones I watched when I was probably too young to.
Right.
But
Yeah,
that
Fully
anything with
Clips.
that I was watching.
Fully Clips is a little more gritty, I think, than Wolf Cop. Wolf Cop
Yeah.
is just a B movie comedy horror.
Mm.
In my opinion, Bubba the Redneck Werewolf is much better.
I'm a redneck werewolf. I haven't heard of that one. I gotta check that out.
Project Metal Beast. Jim.
I don't know that one.
So that's from the 80s where they have a werewolf, but then they put like a suit of armor around him so he can't get shot. It's pretty bad. So we already talked about Howl and Wolf. And I mentioned Waxwork. Have you seen Waxwork, James?
I saw that when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Parts of it. I can't remember. I don't remember that.
There's a segment where there's a werewolf part to it, and it's really good. And it's only like maybe 10 minutes, but it's really good. It's actually one of the better werewolf things in movie history, I think. Honestly, it's weird.
I'm gonna have to check that one out, definitely.
What do you guys think of In the Company of Wolves?
It's been so long that I've seen it, I don't even remember it.
I gotta tell you something. I have not seen it, but I feel like I became aware of that when I started kind of being able to kind of understand what movies were, and I think that had the really awesome VHS cover with the guy's mouth was open and the wolf was coming out of it.
Yep.
And something in it told me that nothing in the movie would be as cool as that VHS cover.
That is absolutely true.
And that's why I think I've avoided it, because I always resented that bait and switch. Like when you grow up in the 80s, that's something they don't warn you about, that you're going to see a lot of cool VHS covers where the movies are absolute shit.
Right. It's too fantasy for me, and I really couldn't get into it, so I just did not enjoy it at all.
But
Wolfen by Whitley Driver.
I don't think I've seen that one or
Albert
read it.
Finney, yeah.
What?
Haven't seen it.
Yeah, Albert Finney's in it. It's all right.
Which one are you talking about?
Wolfen.
Wolf what?
Wolfen.
Oh, Wolfen. Yeah, no, I haven't seen it.
Okay, so we'll go to something more mainstream. Marvel, the MCU,
Oh, yes.
did a special of Werewolf by Night.
Saw it, was bored by it.
Did it change your opinion when they colorized it?
I didn't see the colorized. I saw the black and white. It was boring.
I liked it. I liked it. Oh, I liked it.
I thought it was fun.
I appreciated it for what it was, but it was, so many werewolf things are just not enough werewolf.
Yeah.
it's like I know you want to hold it back, and as somebody that didn't introduce the werewolf in his book till 40% in, I feel like a little bit of a hypocrite. But it's you need more werewolf,
Yeah.
and it just didn't feel like it.
I,
And don't get me started on the MCU post Endgame because that could be a
I,
whole other.
oh yeah, it's been pretty terrible. But
Yeah.
what I think is that at least it's got that Halloween vibe, right? For
Right.
the MCU, which they've never really done.
I will
So
always, I'll always respect somebody for trying something different.
right,
That's why I like, that's why like when even with like Halloween ends, like even I got problems with it. I at least respect you for trying something different instead of the same thing again and again and again. Not to go off topic.
so you could look at my face and look at Jim's face about that.
So we did a live react to Halloween Kills. We recorded a
Halloween
whole
kills or Halloween ends.
Halloween Kills, and then
Oh, okay.
was it Halloween? No, it was
It was
Halloween Ends. It was Halloween
it was the
Ends.
one with what's his face in it?
No, that's Halloween.
Joey
Yeah,
or
yeah,
I'm not sure what the fuck his name
yeah.
was.
With that kid that gets bullied by the
Yeah, by
13-year-olds or
the
whatever.
band.
The
By the
40-year-old adult who gets bullied by 18-year-old kids.
Yeah, you get bullied by the band geeks.
Yeah, exactly. Suffice it to say, I like 2018. I did not like the other two.
I like the first two. I like the concept of ends. I like the ending of ends. Again, not sorry, getting off the werewolf topic, but I will say this.
That's okay.
I said the problem with ends was again execution. Idea not bad. I just didn't believe that Lori would wait 40 years to kill for Michael, and then 4 years after killing her daughter, she's over it. And then the Allison and Corey, I just didn't believe. The weird thing is, I'm not a tall guy myself, but I thought Corey was too short. Also, to take over Michael, that really bothered me, and I didn't like. There was nothing about him that said, "Oh my god, like why is Allison like so attracted to this dude?" But like, if they actually had done the idea as well, they might have had a better movie. But I guess I always like have sympathy for the ideas. Like that's the thing. I respect people that will try something different,
So
even though if it
My
doesn't.
big problem with Halloween after 2018, because I did like Halloween 2018, is that there's a huge shift from Halloween 2018 to Halloween Kills, where Laurie becomes the problem. She's getting in his way. He does not want to hurt people. He's not hunting anybody. He's just trying to exist. She is the problem. And that town is the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Evil Dies Tonight, Jim.
Shut up, Mark.
Well, look. I never had a problem with Evil Dies Tonight because I mean, I did, and I didn't. It was overused. It was corny, but we grew up on Dr. Loomis with his nonsense, so it's kind of like they needed to throw that in there. But
so my main problem with that, right? That the Evil Dies Tonight makes sense if everyone's seen all the Halloween movies, right?
Sure,
if that's what they've lived through,
mm-hmm.
But they haven't. It was the original Halloween, and then he came back like 40 years later. Right? So there'd be like how many school shootings and massacres have happened?
And it was funny because if in 2018 the Dave character actually in a very meta moment leans into that. He's like, I mean, you killed 3 people. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's not that bad.
I know they undercut their own movie.
And then they just leaned into it for the rest of the series.
Yep.
At least I'll give them points for that. They understand how stupid it is. To come up
and that's right, like, and that's they skewer a lot of the tropes that they explored in the sequels, because there's one scene where Allison's talking to somebody and they're like, well, isn't that her brother or something? She's like, no, that's just something stupid people thought or whatever.
I actually used to, on my original website, I had a blog and I ended up cataloging every reference from the series to in Halloween 2018. I think there was like 48 of them or something ridiculous like that. But it's but for me, I mean, Halloween's kind of like like they say about pizza, even when it's like I'll eat it. I might not like it. I may not enjoy it, but I'll always like. There's not. I mean, with the exception of Resurrection, which in my opinion is the worst. I'll always, even that one, I'll just if it's on, I'll watch it.
It has the most satisfying scene ever, though.
Resurrection.
Yes.
Not Trick or Treat, motherfucker, right?
No.
Okay.
When when they throw Jamie Lee Curtis off a building. I cheered in the movie theaters when I saw that. And my ex is like, "What is wrong with you?" I'm like, "He's been hunting that woman for 25 years. It's about
We got
fucking time."
Michael got a
Yeah,
W.
exactly.
I will say this one funny thing. Again, sorry for getting it off topic because again, Halloween's my favorite. But in Resurrection, I read the 2 books, Taking Shape and Taking Shape 2, which are absolutely fantastic by Encyclopocalypse. Taking Shape 1 details the making of all the movies up to 2018 because
Okay.
that's when I finished it. And Taking Shape 2 has all the unmade sequels, like 24 of them, most of them from the Dimension years with the Weinsteins, which you can imagine.
Right.
But in the Halloween Resurrection section, they said they held a series of test screenings across my home state of New Jersey. And a lot of the test screenings, the cards said they wanted more Busta Rhymes. And I'm like, this is why nobody fucking likes us. This is why nobody likes this state.
Right.
Like, thank you. And nothing against Busta Rhymes. I actually thought he was really good in Narc. I don't want to see him kung fu fighting Michael Myers.
I mean, it's no worse. It's no worse than the boxing scene in Jason Takes Manhattan, right?
No, it is.
No, much worse than the boxing
think so?
scene in Jason Takes Manhattan is
Jason
fantastic. I love that scene. That dude just tires himself out, and then Jason just like, bam.
Boom.
Give me a shot. Before Halloween ends, I heard some apologists talking about it, saying, well, if you look at Halloween 3, it was really different from like the first 2 movies because it was a different movie, and that's what they were trying to do.
No.
I'm like, well, you're finishing a trilogy that's specifically about Michael Myers.
They made a lot of mistakes and advertising. I hate bait and switch advertising.
Yeah.
I fucking hate it. And they bait and switch advertised that one, and that was 100%. Like it's funny. I've gotten very adept. Like a lot of times, if there's a big shot in the trailer, I can tell. I'm like, all right, this dude's only in the beginning because you can only see like he's wearing the same clothes, he's doing this, like, and I knew most of that was not like you can actually tell in the trailer because there's a scene when he opens the door and Laurie has the gun, he opens it with his left hand and he's got these fingers, so you knew it wasn't Michael. And like I'm like, all right, you're giving it away, but no, you're baiting and switching, and I don't like that at all.
And
it didn't even have to bait and switch. You just needed to make an end for that trilogy that made sense.
Somebody was going to take over from Michael Myers. He needed to be taller.
If he did take over from Michael Myers, I could almost understand it. But he doesn't. He just dies.
No, right.
And it's like, and then the wrestling the guy and being able to wrestle him. Like, again, the idea could have worked. It just was not executed.
And they tried to throw too much into that movie. Like, they tried to do the whole cult thing. And Michael Myers needed to be nursed back to health. Like, what was that?
Yeah, it just and it sucks because David Gordon Green kept going out and doing interviews saying, "Oh, he's not supernatural," when he very fucking clearly was supernatural.
Right.
Like he the whole concept was the more he kills, the stronger he gets. Like they kept saying, like they kept, this is what we're showing you on screen, but we're telling you something else.
But remember Corey, who was beat up by the band members, Michael Myers.
Yeah,
and don't get me started about what David Gordon Green did to The Exorcist.
Oh man, and it's a shame.
I fucking called it with Linda Blair showing up. The minute he did a press release and said, "No, she's not in the movie," I fucking knew she was showing up at the end as soon as her mom's eyes got stabbed.
You told it because I told you.
My biggest problem with The Exorcist, I again, the concept was really good. 2 girls being possessed.
Right.
Let's not just lean into the Catholicism. Let's do other cultures. Let's do all this. It was all really great. I loved the trailer. I thought they spent way too much time in Haiti in the beginning. That dragged on way too long. And then once the girls got possessed, everything happened way too fast. You introduced Ellen Burstyn, who, no offense, was absolutely terrible. Like that was one of the worst.
90.
She didn't want to do it, right?
Yeah, she only did it for the paycheck.
We'll give you more and more money, and she's like, "Well, give it to my charity." And eventually, they gave enough money, and she'll be like, "Oh, okay, I'll be in it." And then she's just like,
Yeah, I mean, they introduce her, and then next thing you know, she's getting her eyes gouged out. I mean, like, it
Yeah.
was like there was no, like, the original Exorcist. The beauty of that was like you spent time. You have to
Right.
spend time with the characters, and what's wrong with this girl, and she's getting progressively worse. But it just went 0 to 90. It's
It's just
And
nostalgia
then you have,
porn that they can put in the trailer, so
but it
people
wasn't
are
even, it
like,
wasn't even,
"Oh, Ellen Barton's in it, so I'm
yeah.
gonna go watch it."
But then you have the whole exorcism scene where just everybody's screaming at each other.
mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, I knew who was going to die the minute they said that there had to be a choice. I knew exactly
Right.
what was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But the exorcism scene where they're trying to incorporate everybody, it's just a
Right.
giant fucking mess.
Yeah, and when
Like,
you introduce the one dad, and he's the main guy in the prologue and whatever, of course his
yeah,
daughter's gonna be the one to survive. It's just,
right.
yeah,
I'm
it's
Because
just
you'll care about them.
sorry, but The Exorcist is very specifically a Catholic movie. It is not
Mhm.
even a Protestant movie or Presbyterian or anything else. It is a Catholic movie. Once
Yes.
you try to like do another one and then
Mhm.
just say, okay, Hindu person can be this person can be like, okay, it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Right. The rite of exorcism is a Catholic ritual.
Right.
Right.
Yep. I absolutely agree.
But I did actually like the first like where they disappeared. It was
Yeah.
Yeah,
pretty cool,
good.
like mystery, like what's
Mhm.
happening with them, and then they brought them back, and then it's just like nostalgia porn, nostalgia porn. Here's all these. It's again because Zuzu dies tonight. Let's have the community come in, and then we're all work together. But that's not how religions work in the real world. Sorry.
And
Um,
that
if you have a Christian priest or a Catholic priest or whatever, they're not going to have some person that believes in something else come in. Like,
Well, but let's
doesn't
even take
work.
it a step. Let's take a step back from that. How the hell did they get that many adults to agree to strap down two kids in the middle of a room? Like with no talking. There was no convincing anybody. They were immediately, yeah, let's bolt these chairs down, bolt the chairs down and tie these girls up.
that's that's the thing. That's the type of movie that could actually have benefited from being longer
Yeah, absolutely.
because you needed to show more. You needed to build, and
Yep.
and I will say this, and I know David Gordon Green gets shit on a lot, and maybe rightfully so, maybe not. But from what I've experienced and seen, kind of being film industry adjacent, a lot of this shit falls on the studios
Oh
and
yeah.
not necessarily the writers and directors, but
Oh
they're
yeah.
the face, so they get all the shit. Like I
Right.
said, I think Halloween 2018 is, for me, in my opinion, the second best sequel behind Halloween 4. That's my favorite sequel, and I think they did an excellent job with it. But
I do,
and you have expectations, you have stars, you have things they want to accomplish, and I think Blumhouse is better than most because they do tend to give a lot of creative freedom. But
my biggest
Movies
complaint
just
about
have to make a bad movie, right? And there's a lot of hard work
Mhm.
from everyone in the production, and it does fall on the director, and it could be the studio interference, but nobody looks back on like Howard the Duck.
do
1980.
not do not
Great
disparage Howard the
studio,
Duck.
right?
I actually really like Howard. I have fond memories of Howard the Duck.
Do not.
Pick a terrible movie that everybody hates.
Mm,
The Room, I don't know.
Twilight.
That's what they, yeah. But what I'm saying is that the buck stops here with the director, unless you're going to Alan Smithy it. Um,
Well, you
you're
could
going
look at Grease.
to that's your product.
Well, you could look at the
No, I
Grease
agree.
2, which suffered that way because halfway through they fired the director, they fired the writers. That's why some of the characters just disappear halfway through the movie.
Mhm.
And they were working and shooting scenes while they're rewriting the film,
Right.
so it's a bit
But
of a
yeah, and
mess.
I'm saying if you read or listen to the audiobook for Taking Shape 2,
Yep.
you'll see there was actually a really good movie in Halloween Resurrection.
Yeah.
And they Rick Rosenthal never had a real chance, like, and he tried stuff, and even the original Halloween too, like, which is considered one of the better sequels. Rosenthal's name is on it, but Carpenter has his fingers all over it because they weren't happy with, like, the behind the scenes shit is real, and I think a lot of times you got to get out there and you don't necessarily have like, yeah, your name's on it, and I know the buck stops with you, but a lot of times is, well, you can't go and say, oh, the Weinsteins fucked me on this, because the Weinsteins are pretty powerful, or were pretty
Yep.
powerful, and you want to keep working, so it kind of sucks in a way.
No, I get
Yeah.
that. I think that works more with movies that have become popular. Like if you look at like Blade Runner, you could say, okay, well, it's a great movie, right? But the studios fucked them over, and then they released like the director's cuts. But there was already a good product there.
Right, true.
But I think if there's just a bad movie, nobody goes back and says, well, it's probably the producer.
That's not true. That is not
Well,
true.
I mean, just in general. I mean, talking about the general person
Do
on
you,
the
do you know? Do you know what movie I'm going to bring up? Do you know what movie I'm going to bring up, Mark?
What?
Do you know what movie I'm going to bring up?
The Meg.
Dominion. They specifically, when they were getting ready to release the first one, went in and recut it into a different movie because they thought it was terrible.
Both are equally forgettable.
Yeah, they both suck.
They're not. I agree that they're not great, but they did that. The studio went back and said, "We're releasing this movie, but we're going to recut it and do this one too."
But that's a very specific thing about releasing two movies around this, basically the same production. I'm saying just like generally a bad movie is a bad movie, and you blame the director.
Yes, that's very true. I don't
Yeah,
disagree. They get shit on because their name's on it.
A lot of cases is true, but I mean, there's also a lot of cases where it was a good script, and they brought somebody in to halfway through to kind of fix it, and
yeah.
Do things. Like I don't think that, honestly, in the case of New Halloweens, I do think the director and the writers fucked up. I don't necessarily think that was studio interference. Again, Blumhouse doesn't have a record of doing that. I think some of the other sequels, but
well, so let's look at the tonal shift at the end of Halloween Kills, right, where Karen gets killed. They turned it into some art house segment where they slowed everything down, and she's doing all this.
They wanted to be. They were the problem there is they got too cute with the references, and that was supposed to be a reference to Psycho.
Yeah, but it was stupid.
Yeah,
it fucked up the whole thing.
You can definitely get too cute with it.
Yeah.
You know, and
go ahead. Sorry.
No, I think again, there's good ideas that are poorly executed, and I think that's really tough to.
It feels like they just tried to throw too much at it.
And don't get me wrong, I think people like us who like are nerds about stuff realize, like, if you look at like Alien 3 or some of these movies.
What's wrong with Alien 3?
It's pretty bad, Jim.
No, it's not.
I love Alien 3.
Yeah.
I love Alien
3. No, all 4 Alien movies are masterpieces. So don't shit on them.
I don't like Alien Resurrection, but Alien 3.
Hear me out.
No.
Where it's people that know about the backstory that know how much the studio was affecting that movie, right?
Oh, yeah, of course. Yes.
There you go.
Know that wasn't the director's plan or idea, and they were totally hamstrung by the.
But that's the thing. Like a director like Fincher, you'll give him the benefit of the doubt because you see. But if it's somebody that you don't necessarily isn't that big of a name, because Fincher's got other work, but sometimes there's directors who just can't overcome that film they put out that was completely ruined by studio notes and everything else.
Right.
Well, I'll give you a weird 1980s schlocky horror comparison. If you look at Spookies, have you seen Spookies?
Yes. There's a funny story about that I could tell you, but go ahead.
So those are two different movies put together.
100%.
So, like, there's no one person that was responsible for that whole movie.
Mm-hmm.
But there's still a director's name in that. And I think if most people watch that, they'll just look at the director maybe and just say, well, he doesn't know what he's doing.
But that's the thing. But that's what I think we're saying the same thing in different ways, that it's not necessarily always fair.
Right. No, I think it's only like us nerds that know that. But I think the general public will just like watch a movie, look at the director, and just say, well, that sucked. I maybe won't watch something from them ever again.
Exactly. And it might ruin their career when they might be very competent and have better things. But the funny thing is, and then if you permit me on a little bit of a side note again, because I keep
Yeah.
sidetracking you guys, so I'm sorry. But
You don't have to apologize. We go down rabbit holes all the time.
yeah, so with Spookies, I wrote another blog post about that one, and I called it the Saga of Spookies and Pegasus Video. When I was growing up, there was a video store which was a brilliant idea that didn't take off, and I don't know why. It was called Pegasus Video, and it was a video store / pizza place. So you could go rent a movie and get a pizza at the same spot, and it just no one. I've never seen anywhere else like that.
Right.
And the pizza wasn't great. I live in New Jersey. We have excellent pizza here, and for Jersey pizza, it was. I mean, you guys are in Florida; it'd probably be really good for you guys. No offense, but
I grew up in Connecticut, so I've had New York pizza.
yeah. It's when I go down to Florida, I say I have a rule. I'm like, no pizza for me.
Yeah,
So.
exactly. I hate it. I hate it so much.
But it was a great place, and I always remembered like the horror section with all these great covers. And like I said about before, the covers are a bait and switch.
Yeah.
And Spookies had one of the coolest covers ever.
Yep.
It had that dude with the hole in his head, and there was these demons carrying away a big blue blonde girl in a nightgown, and it was a cool thing. I'm like, this has got to be the greatest movie ever. And for whatever reason, I never rented it. Place closed down. And I didn't see that movie until 2 years ago when it premiered on Shudder. I could never find it. I couldn't rent it. It wasn't on Prime Video. It wasn't on streaming. It showed up on Shudder. And I'm like, there is no way this movie is going to be any good at all. And it certainly wasn't. But huh?
It's great though.
It is. It's not good, but it is great because it was. Again, and you realize it because I had heard before I watched it that it was two movies cut together because and I'm like, wow, I waited 30 years for this.
You can totally tell. And the Muckman, James, when the Muckman came up. Speaking about VHS covers, like the one thing that sticks in my head whenever I was a kid growing up in Northern Ireland, and I used to see this cover, and it used to scare the hell out of me. And it was The Deadly Spawn. Have you ever seen that?
I can't picture the cover though. I've heard that.
So there's a cover now because it's got re-released, and it's like a
with
drawing.
The worms. Yeah.
Huh?
Talking about the one the drawing has the worms on it, or whatever they are.
But the cover back then was actually one of the creatures, and it's just like Jaws. It's an alien, so it's just like this thing with like Jaws.
Here, let me show you. Let me show you. One second.
You go, girl.
What? What did you just say to me?
You go, girl. Yes.
That one?
Yeah. All right, I remember that now.
But that is not the current one. This is the current the drawing that he was referring to, though.
Yeah, that's
the other one. The other one is much better.
Yeah, I agree.
Anyway, it's a really great movie. I didn't see it until maybe 10 years ago. It's a low budget, but it's really good.
Do you know there's one VHS cover that always scared the crap out of me, and I don't know why.
Was it the Entity Sim?
No.
Okay.
It was Invaders from Mars with Karen Black.
Yes.
I love Invaders from Mars.
I love the movie after I finally got over being a chicken shit and watched it, but for whatever reason, that cover with the spaceship going over the hill would just freak me out.
That was and the ending of that movie always freaked me out too.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know which one was mine? The Grim Reaper. The Grim Reaper, which I didn't realize was actually Joe D'Amato's Anthropophagus.
Yep.
And that was the R-rated cut. And I remember we had the Food Town was mine. That was the food store that had the video section. And I was like, man, this cover looks really cool. And
the Grim Reaper from 1980?
1980.
Where he's eating his guts, right?
Yes, Joe D'Amato. And then I saw it, and I'm like, all right, it was kind of scary. Like, it did freak me out because I was pretty young when I saw it. And like I thought the guy was creepy, like that scene with the blind girl, and they shut the door, and he's standing behind the door. But I didn't see the two famous scenes because I didn't see the uncut version.
Because it's Grim Reaper.
No, that's the one I actually own now. But you want to look up the Grim Reaper which is
Oh yeah,
This cut version
yeah.
yeah,
This one.
where there's
yeah,
no gravy eating.
yes, that one, yeah, which was a skinned rabbit, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one always freaked me out, and I love that movie. And the funniest thing too is the sequel, the unofficial sequel, which they called Anthropophagus 2, which had nothing. I think they released it as horrible or
Oh,
absurd,
it's absurd.
which is basically Italian Halloween.
Yep. It's great.
Okay.
Where
Yeah, and the dude is like a regular dude that's running around killing people, and he's just like a tall guy with a beard. He looks normal. He's wearing a button down. Uh, my favorite part of that movie, though, is they're watching the Super Bowl. It's like a 1970s one with the Steelers.
it's,
Watching it at a Super Bowl party in shirts and ties, eating spaghetti. Like, is this what the Giants think the Super Bowl is? Like, that, it was hilarious.
You know, Mark's favorite movie that he forced me to watch
what?
is about a serial killer who
Oh,
has a specific character trait. You want to talk to him about it, Mark? Because
Oh,
this is how you introduced me to Giallo films, right?
hmm?
Tell him the story, Mark.
Wait, can I guess? Is it New York Ripper?
Yes,
Yep.
it is 100%.
I know it is. Go for it.
It's the worst movie I've ever seen in my whole life.
Jim doesn't like it because there was like female nudity in it.
That doesn't bother me.
Is that the one where you
well,
actually have a live sex show on stage in that one?
Yeah, where she gets raped by somebody's foot in a restaurant. Yes.
It's a classic, Jim.
Mm.
It is a kind.
So ghost rape's off the table, but foot rape's okay.
I mean, unless did you watch it with your mom?
No, I did not.
Oh well, maybe if you did, you'd enjoy it. I'm just throwing it out there.
It's not. I don't think.
I need more.
I
I
think that's
need
what
more.
is best.
I need more alcohol if I'm going to deal with your bullshit today, Mark.
Hey, Mom, let's watch I Spit on Your Grave.
She would not allow me to watch that movie.
Why?
That was a bridge too far, apparently. I don't know.
Kind of was.
She rented. I remember because I saw the VHS cover in her room, and she got the X-rated version.
Oh, wait. You saw the VHS cover in your mom's room of I Spit on Your Grave. Was it on the wall?
No, she rented the videotape.
She rented it, but didn't show it to you.
She did not. Her and my father watched it after we went to bed. She would not allow us to watch that.
Well, yeah, that's a bridge too far.
Yeah.
It kind of was.
Yeah.
Only
Is that okay with
ghost
you?
rape is acceptable for a 7-year-old, not actual human rape.
I was not 7 years old, James, just so you're aware.
He, what, 6?
3.
5? 3?
Yeah, 3.
That's
3.
probably when I saw my first horror movie. Was 3 or 4.
So the first
remember it.
the first horror movie I ever remember seeing, I still to this day don't know what movie it was. We were living in New Haven. I was like 5 years old.
Was it a Syrian film, Jim?
Are you done?
Maybe.
So I have no idea what it was, but I remember that they were on a riverboat going down some jungle river, and something attacked them from the water. That's all I remember. I was like 5 years old.
This Cannibal Holocaust that your mom showed you.
My mother wasn't home. The babysitter let us watch it.
Laurie Strode?
Her name was Jennifer.
What's she doing now, Jim?
The babysitter?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Oh.
I haven't talked to her in probably 15 years.
Just asking.
See, for me, I vividly remember the first movie. I was over at my cousin's house. I remember the dark blue carpet. There's a piano over to the left. My uncle's chair was in the back. Used to smoke a pipe. I could still smell it. And she had on Friday the 13th Part 3. And I must have been like, it came out when I was 3, so I must have been 4 or 5 at the time. And I remember the flashback to Halloween 2, and not Halloween, I'm sorry, Friday the 13th. I said Halloween. Friday the 13th, Part 3. and it was the flashback where they kill him in the they hit him in the shack, and then he goes and the bloody hand reaches for or crawls away while the
Yep.
mask is sitting there. So I vividly remember that one.
So the first horror movie that I remember vividly, and I've told this story many times, so I won't get into it too much, but was A Nightmare on Elm Street. My mother had taped it off HBO, and she showed it to me. She got me excited about it before school. What?
She made you what?
She got me excited for the movie. She talked it up to me before breakfast.
Did she get you excited for the entity?
No. Are you trying to make this weird? What is your problem?
I'm just asking questions, Jim.
No, you're making it weird, so shut up.
I'm making it weird.
Yes, you're making it weird. No, you're making it weird for my mom. I don't know what why you're fixated on this, but anyway.
Because I'm talking about mental.
No, so anyway, my mom had taped it off HBO, and she got me excited for it in the morning. And then I get home thinking I'm going to watch this really cool movie that I apparently love, that I don't know I love, because that's how she did. She's like, I taped your favorite movie, and she just kept saying it all morning. So I get back from school, she's like, oh no, we got to wait till dark. And I don't know what reaction she was expecting, but I was instantly in love. The minute he cut off his fingers while he was chasing Tina, like, that is so fucking cool. Like, I didn't say that, obviously, but I was like, that is so cool. She's like, you're supposed to be scared. I'm like, but it's not scary. It's really cool. And it still to this day is my favorite movie.
She was like, I've seen Ghost Rape. This is nothing. So anyway, my 3 pillars of movies that I watched that got me into horror: Jaws, Poltergeist, and An American Werewolf in London.
Because Tobe Hooper's one of your favorite directors.
I think... What?
What? Poltergeist?
No, he never directed that.
He did. Well, theoretically he did. Steven Spielberg really did it, but...
He bunny-eared directed it.
You don't think he could do anything tonally different from Texas Chainsaw Massacre? Is that the problem?
No, I've seen a lot of Tobe Hooper movies, and this was not a Tobe Hooper movie.
Why?
Okay, so we have this discussion, Jim, about like themes and thematic stuff, and what makes
right,
it
because you
and like more than basic, right?
Just because a director says it's a trilogy doesn't mean it's a trilogy.
James, do you like John Carpenter?
I do like John Carpenter.
Do you know what the Apocalypse trilogy is?
The Apocalypse trilogy would be... I know Prince of Darkness is one of them.
Yeah. The Thing.
Yeah.
And In the Mouth of Madness.
Oh, yes.
That is his Apocalypse trilogy. Excellent. One of the best trilogies ever made. Jim?
It's not a trilogy. It's not a trilogy.
Well, that's not...
What is the connecting fiber between these movies, Mark, besides the director?
They're apocalyptic, Jim.
Okay, so why don't we throw 20...
It doesn't necessarily have to be connected narratively. It could be connected thematically.
Exactly.
But then I can throw The Day After Tomorrow in there and call it a quadrilogy.
They call was it Shaun of the Dead, Blue Fuzz, or
The End of the World,
and at the end, at World's End.
The Cornetto trilogy,
but they're not a trilogy either.
It's kind of an overarching theme, which I guess in that case was ice cream, but
it's not a trilogy either. But I still love all 3 of those movies.
Yeah.
Okay, Jim, you're wrong, but annoying.
No, I'm not.
So let me just pull up. I have a list of werewolf titles that are kind of strange, and these are actual movies. Are you ready?
I am
sure.
Tell me which one you want to see. Werewolf Santa.
I would watch that in a heartbeat.
Already seen it.
Werewolf,
I've seen it before.
Werewolf Bitches from Outer Space.
No, not my thing. That's a Skinamax flick. I'm not interested.
An erotic werewolf in London.
No.
A Mexican werewolf in Texas.
Yes, I'd watch that.
Political. Yeah. Werewolf World.
What was that?
Werewolf World.
World. It's hard to say.
So I just want to know: is this like a flea market, or is this like
I assume it's a world filled with werewolves.
I mean I don't know. I pictured like a giant marketplace where you could just buy all kinds of
I
werewolves.
picture like people landing on the planet and it's all werewolves.
So instead of Planet of the Apes, it's werewolves.
Right, but I have no
Okay.
idea if that's what it is.
Okay,
Uh,
I'll check it out.
Werewolf Massacre at Hell's Gate.
Yeah, I'd check that out.
Try not.
Werewolf in a girls' sorority.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
That could be fun as shit. Yeah, that's got an '80s vibe to
There
it.
might be some nudity in that, Jim. I don't know.
Nudity doesn't bother me, Mark.
No, I mean female nudity.
Doesn't bother me, Mark. Did you forget I was married for 10 years?
Bullshit. Anyway, Sexy Teenage Werewolf on page 4.
Not so much.
Well, I understand if I haven't seen the first three.
I'm going to assume that you could probably just jump in at part 4. I don't know. Grandma Werewolf.
Yes. Because I want to know if she can bite with or without her dentures.
The next one might be maybe my favorite, and it's Wheelchair Werewolf.
Oh, hell yes. I'm all over the wheelchair werewolf.
I mean, we have to be inclusive with
We do.
differently abled werewolves.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yep. Werewolf Babysitter.
That could be
I mean-
fun.
Yeah.
So, Jim, can you please give me your idea about the plot of this movie? I'll give you the title right now. And it is a werewolf ninja philosopher.
I feel like this is a spiritual successor to the what the hell is the name of that movie? Velocipaster. I feel
Which
like
I
it's
still want to see.
yeah. It's a guy that turns into a dinosaur, but he exercises demons for Jesus.
Right, but Jim, that's not a summary of this movie.
No, but I feel like it's in that same vein, so I'm going with that.
So,
It's a
That might be like a. I almost feel like a martial arts werewolf movie.
yep.
yeah,
mhm.
yeah. But how does a werewolf
It's
philosophize?
supposed to be Uranus, but then tells you about the Zen in life.
But is it, or is it a monk that got bitten?
Is it a
So he's a philosophizer and a ninja during the day, but he's a werewolf at night.
what if he turns into a werewolf, throws some like stars at you, right? And then
But werewolves don't have opposable thumbs. They can't do that.
what?
Werewolves don't have thumbs. They can't throw shit.
You don't have thumbs.
They do not.
Unless they're quadruped.
Some do.
No. Let's ask the expert, James.
James,
Yeah,
Do werewolves have thumbs?
okay, the definitive answer, do werewolves have thumbs? Yes or no?
He's kind of got. Yeah, he's got thumbs. See.
That's a dew claw. It's not a thumb.
Oh, all right. I mean, it depends.
Jim, a werewolf can't strangle somebody without thumbs.
And they haven't done that since the 50s.
Not the 50s. Well, anyway, okay. I was a communist werewolf.
Oh, that sounds like Nazi exploitation. I could get into that.
Well, that would be the opposite of Nazi exploitation.
No,
It's
but
communist.
it's in. So, commie exploitation? What do you want me to call it? It's
I don't
in the
know.
same vein.
Come up with
Uh,
it.
Yeah.
What'd you say, James?
It's kind of like the Elsa werewolf of the SS, or
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm good with that.
Here's one that bridges all the gaps. Vampire zombie werewolf.
and then just throw it against the fence and see what sticks.
Right?
Against
So
the wall.
which one did they become first? Like, could a zombie become a werewolf or a vampire? Like, because you're already undead if you're a vampire, so aren't you technically a zombie already?
No.
I think
Zombies
it's
Why not?
trait
yeah.
than vampires.
Sorry, what?
And sometimes vampires are werewolves, like in Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yeah, that's true.
It all gets muddied up.
It does.
Okay, space werewolf. I mean, if you think there's a werewolf in space and they're up there and the moon's there all the time, they would be a constant werewolf, right?
That
Well, it's
makes
just
sense.
Yeah. But the sun's there all the time too, so is the moon ever out?
What?
But the sun's always there, and they're not out when the sun's there. So it sounds like a contradiction,
So,
doesn't
so
it?
what would happen, Jim?
I think it would be nothing. They'd be at a constant impasse, wouldn't they? Because you
They
got
would,
both the sun and the moon out. So
they would just
which one wins?
change.
Sorry, what'd you say, James?
They'd always be turned or they'd always not.
Right, exactly. It would just be at an impasse. You wouldn't know. It all depends on the angle.
But again, like the moon, whenever it shines, right? It's just a reflection of the sun,
True. So maybe it's the sun that's the problem.
right? So it's the sun that causes the werewolves.
Yeah.
Duh.
Duh.
Okay, the last one that I have is the wimp whose woman was a werewolf. Lots of a literal.
Good title. I'd watch that.
I mean, I'd give it a shot if it was streaming on Tubi or something.
Yeah, you guys are missing a classic. I don't know if it was the late '80s, early '90s. Is My Mom's a Werewolf?
I love that movie.
That's
I love that movie.
On Saxon.
Yep. That's a great movie.
I just Google like weird werewolf movies.
Yeah.
So I will tell you my favorite horror comedy is a book called Board Gay Werewolf.
Well,
What was it? Board Gay Werewolf?
Board Gay Werewolf. There's a
It's very specific.
It is. But we talked about how I don't appreciate, gratuitous sex scenes just thrown in for no reason.
Mhm.
But there's an actual sex scene in there where he's being attacked by a dog. Like a little ankle biter. It's fucking hysterical. I have not laughed that hard in a long
And then
time.
he has sex with them, Jim?
No, Mark. I didn't say anything about bestiality.
Well, you said about sex scenes.
He's getting
He
attacked
was
while
having-
he's having sex.
Yes, he's
Okay.
having sex with somebody, and the person's little ankle biter dog is attacking him.
All right, that's kind of funny. It's
It
not
is,
as
it was-
funny as it's not as funny as the one in Drive Angry. You ever see that one?
No.
Nick Cage.
Nick Cage, yeah, and that was it was Patrick Lussier when he was with Dracula 2000 and some other ones. He was Wes Craven's editor. He directed it. It was a 3D during a 3D boom, and I guess Nick Cage is having sex with some random girl. Actually, Amber Heard is in it too. Now he's not having sex with Amber Heard, but some random girl.
Right.
And then these guys attack him, and he ends up getting tased while he's having sex with the girl, and she ends up having a huge orgasm.
Oh God,
Yeah, that is one of the funniest sex scenes I've ever seen.
that is funny.
Jim, have you ever watched that with your mom? I'm just. Well, I don't know. James, oh. Jim?
You done? You
I don't
done?
know how to respond to that. You guys talk that out.
You done?
That's what she said.
Not to you.
That's what your mom said to me.
Yeah. Now, and you wonder why I won't bring her on this podcast.
James, you're worried about swearing on our podcast, right?
No, not anymore. Hey, I always prepare ahead of time.
Yeah.
He probably needs a third bourbon or a fourth, or I don't know what number you're on. But...
Yeah, I'm good with two. I'm good.
Anyway, so Mark, you want to get into what you watched?
Yes.
So
I've only
James,
watched one thing because.
shut up. We're talking to James right now.
Oh, I thought you said me.
No. I asked if you wanted to get into that segment. I didn't say I wanted your opinion yet. So anyway, James. Now in this part of the show, we normally talk about movies that we've watched, whether they're horror related or not. It doesn't matter. Movies, games, books, whatever you want. What's kept you occupied? This would be a great time to bring up Seven Rabbits if you want to talk about it.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. In the past, I've seen it all over books of horror, all over everything. I'm like, all right, this looks really cool. And as I got to talking to Tim and we started, chatting, and he's been hugely supportive.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, and I gotta check this out. And the funny thing is, like I said, I've been reading Survivor by J.F. Gonzalez, that seminal work of extreme horror that's kind of been out of print forever. And I've been dragging my feet on because I don't necessarily read too much, like just sit down and read a book. Usually I try to at night and then I'm asleep in 5 minutes. Whether the book's good I can watch a movie if it's good or not. I'm asleep. Doesn't matter. If I'm ready to go, I'm ready to go.
Yep.
And so that's why most of the books I read are audiobooks because I'm in the car and I listen to it. So finally, I'm like, I got up yesterday. I never left it. I'm like, all right, I'm going to finish Survivor. And I read it for like 2 hours. I finished it. Because when I do read, I can read pretty fast.
Yeah.
And then this morning, I'm like, all right, I really want to start Tim's book. And I started it. And I think it's like 2.5 hours later, I was done.
Right.
And it was such... I made a joke in Books of Horror. I said, because there's always drama going around the horror community. I got a beef. I got a real beef with Timothy King, and he fucked up my day because I was supposed to be writing and I started his book and I had to read the whole damn thing. And I read it and I was like, man, this is really great. And I could visualize it all in my head. Yep. He has some really cool moments with the rabbits and very suspenseful. And I love the cut back and forth and it really kind of developed. And I was kind of mad before I read it because I did see one review that spoiled who the rabbits were.
Right.
But if you read the first few chapters, I think it becomes pretty obvious. Real quick. And that's not to a detriment because sometimes you just got to throw it out there and just let it. Sometimes it's not so much why or not so much who as to why.
Right. And that's the same thing.
It has to be a mystery.
Right. And that's what I said in my review too. Is like this book sets a goal and just plows right through it.
Right.
And it does everything right.
The hell out of that.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, like for me, it would be very, I think, comparable to for me for Pursuit because it just kind of once it hits the ground, just goes like you said.
That's very true. Yeah.
And I loved it and getting to know each one, and I think each backstory as each chapter goes just got worse and worse and more heartbreaking. And I think what Tim did it was really great in it. Was that it's at the end, towards the end, even though it was a very black and white story, these people are wrong and they deserve it. But then it started getting a little gray. Like, are they going too far with their revenge? And are they, does everybody in this room deserve the same fate or everybody? So it was very well done. And I just didn't, at the end when it happened, like at the end, I was pretty shocked at how it kind of wrapped up, but it was very well done and very appropriate.
Yep, absolutely. I 100% agree. What else has kept you occupied this week?
Well, like I said, I think I finished up Survivor. I think that was very good. With me, like I'm just working so much to actually sit down and try to watch a movie or play a game or read a book has been really hard. I think next up I'm starting The Warrior Retreat by John Lynch. That's been on my book. That's been on my shelf for a while. And
that one. That one. That's all I'm going to say. That one. Yeah. I've read it. I've read The Warrior Retreat. It's not a bad book at all. Yeah. But it has the exact scene that I don't think should be in the book.
Okay. It's funny you say that because as I was reading Survivor, I have avoided a Serbian film for one very specific reason.
Yep.
And as I'm reading Survivor, I'm like, oh, this is like this early extreme horror, and it's really. And I'm like reading, I'm like, all right, this is enough. It's a little bit 8mm ish, and,
right?
There's some 7 influences, but then I get to chapter 17, I'm like, oh fuck.
Yeah,
I get it. I literally avoided a Serbian film for this very reason. And
the Serbian film's great.
Yeah, man, I can't do it. I just can't do it. And
so here's the thing, though. Like the bad guys are so over the top bad that they're cartoony, right?
I'm sure, but there's no cartoon version of it.
I understand it. It's like,
and it's funny. I remember years ago when it first came out. I was reading as on Ain't It Cool News, like that's how long ago it was that I was reading it, and it was like, and they said this one scene crossed the line. And I'm like, all right, well, let me look into it, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I'm not watching that. And like I said, I think Martyrs is fantastic. I like a lot of those French extreme films, like Inside, and like sometimes I will actively seek out a movie just because it's supposed to be messed up, and you can't. Like I think one of the best movies I've seen in recent memory is When Evil Lurks.
Yep.
Like that, when they said that was the meanest horror movie ever, like the meanest horror movie, I'm like, yeah, that was pretty freaking mean.
Have you seen Terrified?
Terrifying, no, but I want to. I know it's the same director. I want to watch that.
I like that even more than When
Yeah.
Evil Lurks.
Oh, that's great. I definitely got to check that out.
I love When Evil Lurks. So.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll give you, for instance, I took an excursion into what was considered extreme horror with A God of Hungry Walls. You read that? So the synopsis tells you it's about a house, a haunted house, or actually they call it a possessed house, told from the point of view of the house, which could be interesting, right?
Sure.
But no, it's all about how this house possesses everybody and makes them do all these depraved sex acts on each other. That's all it is.
Yeah.
From like a third person POV, and I'm like, well, this is stupid. Like it had so much promise. This is just stupid.
Yeah. It's funny. It's like for me, it's like a lot of the extreme horror when it comes to gore is one thing. You know, and then and it's weird because I discovered Richard Lehman like kind of or like in my early 20s, and then it was like there's a lot of essay in that and a lot of I'm like, oh, this is kind of, you know, but it's weird. It's like I don't think it's the gore. Like I don't think there's any level of gore that could take something to extreme horror like something could do. But I think it's when you get into the real depraved like essay aspects, and then and a lot of times a lot of shit in it too. Like that's what gets me. I can't deal with shit, man.
Essay is pretty much a deal breaker for me, unfortunately.
Yeah, I get you. And you know, like
the way that you did it in My Pet Werewolf didn't bother me at all because it's implied more than being graphic.
Yeah,
and the same thing with Seven Rabbits. Like it's more implied than being graphic. So I get it because it's part of the story. There's a reason that it has to happen.
Right, and it's yeah, I get it, and I'm like, and I'll never. Like I won't necessarily not like my policy is I won't knock anything that anyone has written, any other author, because I feel like at this point in my career that, you know, it's like you're trash talking a colleague and not necessarily reviewing as a fan. And
that's fair.
Like if I liked if I'm talking about a book, you can guarantee that I've liked it. And I'll recommend it. There's some very popular books that I don't like, but I will never ever say it out loud because it's not my place to, and they don't need to hear that from me. I don't need to, and I'm not one of those people say, "Oh no, you shouldn't review." No, if you're readers, you review whatever you want. You want 1 star, 2 star, whatever. I just think is and if other authors do it, that's not me knocking that either. You do what you want. For me personally, this is my personal preference. Like I never know who I'll work with, who I'll be in an anthology with. Maybe one day. It's even like sometimes shitting on a director of a movie I don't like. Shit me. One day they're going to be the guy directing My Pet Werewolf, and maybe I won't have a say in it, and I don't want that on record. Like I know they got the famous King and Kubrick beef and all that stuff. Like I'm a very much like I'm a collaborative person. I won't like I might, even if I hate something that somebody's done personally, I might have to work with them someday. Or I might want to work with them someday.
Right.
You know, just because someone puts out a stinker doesn't mean everything they do is going to be a stinker. So like there are a lot of like, as I've gotten more into extreme horror, like I think like someone like Christopher Triana does a lot of books where there's some really messed up shit, but he also has, but it's not, again, it always serves the story, I think. And even sometimes, even the stories about gratuity, and that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, but
that's like, I got a copy of, I think it was like When the Mockingbird Sings or something like that. And like, I should have listened, but I didn't remember. A friend of mine gave me a heads up on what the subject matter was. And I listened to 3 minutes of it and shut it off. And I just left the review. This is not there's going to be a fan, like somebody that appreciates this. It's just not me. I can't listen to this subject matter at all.
So my thing with extreme horror whether it's written, movies, or whatever, is that it's all fiction, right? None of it's real. It's just somebody's come up with it. If I want to be disturbed, I'll watch history documentaries, or read history documentaries, or things that are actually happening to people in real life, and that's what's disturbing. Like some of the stuff that I've heard about, like you wouldn't even imagine it. And so I always think, like in a movie, right? Like a Serbian film, right? After that scene, they all cut and go to lunch, and they're all like just having food and stuff, right? like it's not real.
Yeah, it's a matter of what you want to watch and
Right.
what your own preferences. But
But I will say that my own personal thing is like animals. Like even if it's fake, I don't like animals being hurt. I'm like I hate that. And I love Cannibal Holocaust, but I won't ever watch that uncut version. I have the cut version. That's my line.
Right.
It's funny, Jim. Were you following me at the time I did my April Fool's joke?
I don't know.
Okay, so on April 1st, I revealed my new book, and I made the cover on BookBrush, and I just got a picture of a dog, and I called the book "All the Dogs Die: 13 Tales of Canine Butchery," and I said, "Y'all are fine with humans getting butchered and killed, but if a minute a dog dies, y'all get all uptight. So I'm going to toughen you all up right now with my tales." I said, "I even have a retelling of Old Yeller from Yeller's point of view, terrified that he's going to die." And oh man, some people are like, I just realized, and I even said at the end of the post, I'm like, before you comment, check the date. And some people are like, that is such a terrible thing to write. Why would you do that? Like,
I do remember that. Yep.
Did you check today's date?
Yep.
But even, I mean, that's just fiction anyway. Like, I would never read it, even if I thought it was serious, right?
Cannibal, they really
it's like, whatever, it's horrible, but it's April 1st. So.
It's like it's like you said, everybody's got their line. And
they do.
It's like, I the one thing that I absolutely despise is when someone will go on and be like, I hear the author's inner voice coming out. They do this and they do that and whatever, and I'm like, horror. And Jim, I think I said this to you when we did TikTok Live. Horror is a way for us to deal with our fears in a controlled environment.
Yep.
Because we all have them. They sneak up on us whether we want them to or not.
Yep.
And we need some type of venting of that fear. And I think those of us that are in the horror, I think we do have some very real fears, some very real concerns, some very real. The world around us sometimes is crazy and out of our control.
Yep.
And I think it's a way for us to vent that in a safe, controlled way. Yeah. So when people say that, oh yeah, no, this author hates women or this author is a piece of shit, and I will never, you will lose me immediately if you say that. And it's funny. One of the funniest things I ever, one of the funniest reviews was one for Pursuit, and it was hilarious because they were all upset about the gore and like, I mean, he even stomps a guy's head for God's sake. Oh my God. And that was funny. But at the end, she's like, and you could tell this was written by a man because they got the main characters got engaged after 5 months. And here I am thinking, I'm like, me and my wife got engaged in 5 months. That's actually autobiographical. So I don't know. It's like you could say that this is real, unreal. Everybody's got different life experiences. Everybody's got different things.
Yep. And
I just hate when you try to find out what's in somebody's head and what's in somebody's heart.
So like it's whenever like people like overanalyze something, and then they like, well, these are the themes, and this is what this person was trying to portray. I remember watching. I don't know if it was the movie about Larry Cohen, King Cohen, very famous 70s, 80s director that Hugh the Winged Serpent and a whole bunch of stuff, but. Somebody was saying, like, it was a director or writer or something, and somebody was like, oh my God, all these thematic things going into this very simple plot. And he's like, no, it was just about, like, tits and ass and some people getting killed. and that's it. There was no like deeper themes, and there's no like
Right.
philosophy behind it. It was just to make money.
Yep.
And I think that sometimes people can get into that mindset of, I know what somebody's thinking when they make it. Like,
Yeah, it's just it could work three different ways. It could be like you intend to put it in there, you don't intend to put it in there, but you didn't realize you meant it, and then you put it in there, and it was total coincidence.
Yeah.
But I think the second one, like where did again the author's inner voice coming out. It's like it's like you don't know me, you don't know so and so, you don't know him, you don't know her, you don't know what they're thinking and what they're dealing with or what they're coming out. But it doesn't mean that they think this way. That's this part.
Or whether they're being serious or not.
Right.
That's like I read this book called Incel by Matt Duchossois, and those people are vile. Like everybody in the book is disgusting.
Right.
Do I think that he's like that? No.
Right.
Like, he's a pretty goofy guy, and even he said, "I had to stop writing this book because I got so uncomfortable." But that's exactly what it's designed to do. It's designed to make you uncomfortable. Everything that happens is meant to make you feel icky. So I loved it.
Well, I mean, I think whenever you're looking at genres, like it's like, well, if somebody's writing comedy, does that mean that they're like happy and laughing all the time? No.
It's funny. I showed my son this clip of Bryan Cranston talking about comedy, and the interesting thing about that is, to be a successful comedian, you have to believe that what you're saying isn't funny.
Right.
Because if you think it's funny, then nobody else is going to think it's funny. Then it's just like they're just watching you amuse yourself, whereas you're not trying to make them laugh. And I mean, that's a very true statement.
Yep, that's very true.
And I think most people aren't defined whether they watch or make something in a certain genre. I don't think that's who they are, right?
Right.
I mean, I love horror movies. I don't really know why, but I don't go around stabbing people. But the same thing is if I love like rom-coms, I'm not going around and dating two women and then like going from cafe to cafe to try and like figure it all out. Like, it's just fiction, right?
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Jim?
Exactly.
Mark, what you only have one. I have a few, so why don't you go first?
What I've watched?
Yeah.
Like I said, unfortunately, I meant to watch 3 movies this week, which all got canceled. The only thing I've seen this week that's noteworthy is X-Men '97. The most
So it's an
recent
episode, not really anything.
I'd spoil episode 5 for me because
I
I've heard.
will not spoil it, but what I'll say is that they've done a wonderful job of hitting into that nostalgia of the X-Men animated series. But in this series, they're actually upping the stakes a lot to go with like the comic book stories.
Nice.
So I think you'll be blown away by the most recent one.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of it yet, but I gotta definitely.
Oh, you haven't seen any of it?
No, I mean, again, I have no time. Like I'm either running with my kids, or I'm writing, or I'm marketing. Yeah. It's like,
it's really good. It does have that weird straddling of nostalgia and new stories, and they got a lot of the voice actors back from the original series too.
That's great. That's awesome.
Yep.
That's the only thing I've seen, really, I think.
Okay. I actually have quite a bit this time, Mark.
Okay, bye.
So, we'll start with what I watched today. I finally got around to watching the remake of The Crazies.
Oh, it's awesome.
I like that one.
It's okay.
It's much better than the original.
So I originally tried to watch this on Shudder because I saw the cover art for it, but it wound up being the original with the remake's cover for some reason. So then I just wound up buying it on Vudu because it was like $7 or something. But it was okay. I can understand why people appreciate it. I just don't think it was great, but it was okay.
Timothy Olyphant is great in it.
I love Timothy Olyphant and
He's
just
great in most things.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's fantastic, and he really does make that movie. But it was just okay. It was just a typical virus type movie.
See, I think it's a low key one of the best remakes ever made.
I've not seen the original, so I can't compare it.
Yeah, I
But
haven't seen the original either.
it was okay. It was
The original's the original's okay, but it's kind of like the if you look at the Dawn of the Dead original compared to the remake,
right.
and I know it's kind of blasphemy. I'm not a big fan of Dawn of the Dead, the original one. I love Day of the Dead and Night of the Dead, Living Dead, but I think the remake is like fantastic.
It's absolutely fantastic. See, I am a big Dawn of the Dead fan, the original, but I think the remake holds up extremely well. It compares extremely well.
Right.
And I think the Crazies does that same sort of jump, where it takes something that's kind of slow and laborious,
Yeah.
and then just puts like a lot of action into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It definitely is not a slow movie, and it keeps your attention for sure. It's just okay for me.
Well, it's like zombies who are. It's like the in between zombies and the rage virus in
Yeah.
like 28 Days Later, where
Yep.
it's kind of like smart
Right.
zombies.
Yep.
Yep.
I also watched Lisa Frankenstein.
Hmm.
It was just okay. Like I can see that movie becoming this generation's Edward Scissorhands, but it doesn't hit for me the way Edward Scissorhands did. And I think it's a generational thing.
And
100%.
and she's coming to Spooky Empire.
She is. Yeah, Catherine Newton will be at Spooky.
Yeah, I totally didn't realize that it was the same actress from Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. And
There's
Freaky.
also
She's done a lot.
yeah, she was in Freaky. She's in Abigail. Yep, she's been in a lot of stuff.
Abigail looks good. I want to see that.
What I will say about this is she has a little too much maturity about her to play the role of Lisa Frankenstein. So she almost it almost feels like you have a 30-year-old playing an 18-year-old.
You
But
like
I still no shade because the movie's solid. It does what it's trying to do well. It's fun. Cole Sprouse is really a shining star in that movie, though. Like that movie is what it is because of him. But again, I see it becoming a cult classic. I mean, even though it's seeing some commercial success, it's going to be just like we appreciate Edward Scissorhands. That's what today's young generation is going to feel for this movie.
I just realized Cole Sprouse actually went full circle. He was Frankenstein in Big Daddy, and now he's Frankenstein here.
Yeah. I then what else did I watch? Night Swim. I saw Night Swim. I like the idea of Night Swim better than the movie.
Yeah, that.
The problem with Night Swim is the chemistry between the family. Like there's no bond there.
So it's a haunted swimming pool, Jim, right?
So it is not. Do you want me to ruin it for you?
Well, I mean that's what the trailers were going.
So
don't necessarily ruin it. Just
yeah. So we'll just say it's not really a haunted swimming pool. There's more to it than that.
So it's more than just a swimming pool.
Yes.
Okay.
But the lack of chemistry between Wyatt Russell and the other members of the family really destroys that film. Because you don't care about any of them. Like I don't give a shit that any of the kids die. I don't care if the mother dies.
I didn't realize Wyatt Russell was in it. I really like.
He plays the dad. So he's a baseball player.
Wow.
Yeah.
How old are we?
He's a professional, right? He's a professional baseball player who's got progressive MS, so he has to give up his career. So they find this house that they want to move into. And like I said, it's not great. The idea is great. The execution is not.
So many movies end up like that. Man.
Right. So then I have some audiobooks that I've listened to also. One you might have heard of, James. It's called Gunther.
Never heard of it.
Mark, why are we looking at your crotch?
No, because
Aw, there's the dog. I love that dog. She does not care for me, though.
she was okay with you.
Yeah, she was.
The other dog didn't like you.
Right. So I listened to Gunther, which we already talked about. I also listened to Turn Up the Sun by Tyler Jones. That was really good. I was surprised. It's It's a short story anthology, but it's done really, really well. I did read a book that I wanted to talk about called Funny Little Town. The author's name is Sirius. This is about a trans boy whose grandmother dies, and he inherits her ability to see ghosts.
Hmm.
And he's so unhappy after his grandmother passes away that he decides he's leaving and he's going to Florida. So on his travels to get to Florida, he gets stuck in a town called Bustagut, and it just gets all kinds of fucked up from there. That's all I'm going to say about it.
Hang on, Jim. He's trans,
Yes.
and he decides to move to Florida.
Yes.
That seems a bit outrageous.
I will say about this, though, I had to reread the beginning of the book 3 times because they never really talk about the character being trans. They just start changing pronouns. So I had to go through it because I was like, am I reading this wrong? Is there an editing issue? Or is this really a trans character? But it was done really well. It was a great book. It's super short. It's only 100 pages. And after about 20 pages, I'm like, this really sucks. I don't think I'm gonna be able to continue this book. And then it just gets weird. It gets all kinds of weird. And it's great. I loved it.
And what's the name of that one again?
It's called Funny Little Town.
Funny Little Town.
And there's a trilogy of books. That one came out first. It came out 2 weeks ago. And I forget the something about cuckoo is the next one, like a cuckoo's nest or something like that. It's called the Dread South trilogy.
Okay.
Is what it's called. But it was really good. I was really surprised. And I think that's it off the top of my head.
I will say going to the movies, even though I got kicked out. Like Neon, I don't know if it's a new like A24 or something,
Yeah.
but like Cuckoo, because you brought that up,
Yeah.
and Long Legs, and there was another one. I'm like, wow, these look really interesting, and they're all from the same production company.
But do they really look interesting, or are the
Yeah,
trailers
no,
genuinely misleading?
No, they look interesting to me, Jim.
I'm concerned they're going to wind up being bait and switch, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the one that looks really interesting to me is the one that, and that's called, Jesus, I can't think of the name of it, but it's the one that actually like is told from the killer's perspective, and it's done.
Violent Nature or something. Violent.
Yeah, it almost looks like a video game, like, and you're following him around, and
Right.
like that. That looks cool to me.
Yeah, my wife was like, "Is that like a Friday the 13th movie?" But
I'm sure it's definitely a little bit of a ripoff.
Yeah, they're totally going for that, but I don't know how they're going to make it because, as you say, it's like it's always behind the killer, and
Plus, that's the gimmick. You gotta do if you're gonna do the gimmick, you gotta do it right.
Yep, absolutely.
But I'll tell you the other one that I'm looking forward to, and I can guarantee you, and I think I posted about this, that I figured out the twist is the new Strangers trilogy.
Yeah.
And if you want me to spoil it, I'll tell you what I think the twist is right now.
We'll take bets. Go ahead.
All right, the couple that's in you see the strangers attacking this couple in the cabin.
Yeah.
The couple in the cabin, or at least one of them, is part of the strangers that we know now.
Okay.
Because it's a prequel. Whatever trauma they go through is going to make them snap, and they're going to end up being the strangers. Because the tagline says, "See how the strangers become the strangers."
Right.
But if there's already the strangers in there, then they're not the strangers.
Right. That's fair. I will say the strangers. The
Book
strangers for me. I will absolutely. I'll write it down. The strangers for me was ruined by that final jump scare. I absolutely.
With Liv Tyler, like
it made the whole thing cheap, and I've not seen a single one since.
I've seen a million horror movies. I never saw The Strangers, but I saw The Strangers too, and I didn't like it.
The Strangers is definitely better than the Strangers, the original Strangers. And not to spoil it, so spoiler warning, but I think the dumbest thing they did in the Strangers too was killing the strangers.
Huh.
Well,
I haven't seen it yet, but
I saw the trailer for The Strangers, the third one, and they do the whole same thing. I haven't even seen the first.
That's why I think it's
like,
gonna.
We are like, oh, because you were here, like.
Yeah, because I think the whole thing is going to be that I think they're showing it on purpose. I think they're trying to be too clever and they're giving themselves away.
So everybody says that is like the scariest line in a movie ever is when they say, "Oh, because you were home." Like, why is that so scary?
I
Like
think it's because of the randomness of it.
for
It's the
me,
home invasion aspect.
but the scariest thing for me would be when Carol Kane gets the call back from the police. The call's coming from inside the house.
Yes,
That's so much
It's the same
scarier.
thing.
that's the
What?
scariest. That is the scariest line I think I've ever heard.
Right.
And then seeing the door open, I've never seen a movie that tonally shifts from the first 10 minutes
Right.
to the rest of it.
Yeah. Mark, thoughts on When a Stranger Calls?
Um, yep, it's good. Become a cliche. I think
Yes.
Black Christmas does it better.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's the right. I
Not
don't think that's the right
necessarily that
comparison.
he's in the same house, but he's killed people in the same house, so he's making phone calls.
I don't think it's an accurate comparison, in my opinion. They're both
No,
great movies, but I don't know that I would compare the two. It's
no,
a
I
totally
mean, no,
different
I
vibe.
think he can because the calls are coming from inside the house in Black Christmas. I just think the first 10 minutes condensed, like I think dragging it out to a whole story doesn't work.
Right.
So I think the way When a Stranger Calls condenses that first 10 minutes is so like scary and so great that it's a very weird thing because now all of a sudden we're found like they say that this guy ripped these children apart with his bare hands,
Right.
and then we're following him for most of the rest of the movie, and I'm like, this is just weird.
Yeah. And I mean, just for me, because I was so used to seeing Carol Kane in comedic roles, for me, because I didn't see it when it first came out.
Right.
When I saw that, I was like, "Holy shit!" That was like seeing Leslie Nielsen do straight cinema. It was just
Yeah,
weird.
when like Leslie Nielsen was in Creepshow.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what
Yeah,
the hell?
because I had seen The Naked Gun before Creepshow, and I had seen Scrooged
Yep.
before When a Stranger Calls.
Right. Mark.
Actors be acting.
That's right.
I think there's certain actors they reach a certain point where they can't be actors anymore. They're just their persona. Like Nicolas Cage is always going to be Nicolas Cage. He can't be a character anymore. Christopher Walken can't be a character anymore. He's always Christopher Walken.
Or you get people like George C. Scott that get all the praise but can't act for shit.
George C. Scott is an Academy Award winner. And
that doesn't mean he's good at it.
Excellent.
Now, George C. Scott, he was the Changeling, right?
Yes. I hate that fucking
that
movie.
scene where his wife and kids, his reaction to his wife and kids getting run over is horrendous.
Yes. I disagree.
So
I don't think that man can emote.
And he's dead. I'll never have to work with him, so I could say that. That was one of the, other than Ellen Burstyn in Exorcist Believer, that was one of the worst performances I've ever seen.
I don't think that George C. Scott could possibly act his way out of a paper bag.
No, I don't know if I won't say that as a whole. I thought he was actually pretty good in Exorcist 3, but you know,
because he was playing a cop, so he didn't really have to emote or show any personality.
Well, but he did what he was supposed to.
Exactly.
His wife and
he was very upset about it.
What was that?
That's 3.
It just didn't show on his face or in his tone of voice, right?
Yeah, exactly. It was just like, oh no, my family's dead. It was so bad. The only worst death reaction out was Sofia Coppola in The Godfather 3.
I'm not gonna. So I have this same complaint with the remake of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre with Jessica Biel, because when they're in the van, right, and the guy shoots himself in the head.
It's a woman.
Whatever. When you see her where she initially reacts, and then they turn back to show you the hole in the head, and then it comes back, and all of a sudden she's shaking and crying like somebody walked up to her and just slapped her across the face.
Jim, you have a lot of complaints about actors. Who do you think is the most effective emotive actress?
I would. Emotive.
Likes to complain, doesn't have a lot of solution.
No, I'm trying to think off the top of my head.
That's what I mean.
I love Adrian Brody. I love Christian Bale. I
So
I I genuinely absolutely adore Timothy Oliphant. I think he's a
so do you
fantastic
think
actor.
he's the best emotive actor that's
No,
ever? Who's the
no,
who's the best emotive actor that's ever?
you're going to have to give me some constraints. Like you can't just open it up wide like that.
Well, what does emotive mean, Jim?
It would be obviously expressive and able to show emotion.
Okay, so who is the best at doing it?
Off the top of my head, I don't know.
No, but you can say who you think the worst is.
Yes, I could.
What does that say about you, dude?
It says that I focus on the negative, which is not a surprise.
Yes, that is true.
Uh huh. So anyway, James, why don't you give everybody that's listening still um, ideas on where they can follow you to keep up with your work?
Well, the best place is I'm most active on Facebook, facebook.com, James Kaine Writes. I also have Instagram under the same handle. Not Twitter, X, James Kaine Books, whatever the hell you call it nowadays.
Mhm.
TikTok is James Kaine Writes. If you go to my website, www.jameskane.net, you can actually sign up for my mailing list. I actually got my newsletter going out tomorrow. This will air after that, but um, if you sign up, you can get 2 free books. A short story I wrote, which was one of the first things I wrote, called "Another Day at the Office," and you can also get Pursuit, which is now I'm now offering as a freebie for subscribers because too many people wanted Gunther, and ultimately I do like making money, so I decided to sell my more profitable book. But I'll
Yep.
give you, for whatever reason, Pursuit. Like I said, Mace is my first one, so I'm like, you know what? If you sign up for my mailing list, you can get your copy for free, and then you still buy, on my website you can buy signed copies of all my books, cool merch. Stuffed werewolf I got for sale, phone covers, t-shirts, all kinds of cool stuff.
I have a shopping list already.
Check it out. There's a lot of good stuff on there.
There is. There absolutely is. I wouldn't say it's so. I'm. This is just my opinion. Pursuit I liked, but you really shine with My Pet Werewolf, in my opinion.
Thank you.
I think you really just could not have done a better job. And
And
you
thank
kept
you.
it. You kept it up with Gunther too. So I mean, they're both fantastic.
Thanks. That's I agree with you 100%. Pursuit was just me, which I do like the story. I always loved the book, and
Yeah.
I think I could have done it better in a lot of ways. But that was me showing that I could do this.
Yep.
And then My Pet Werewolf wasn't even supposed to be my second one. In fact, the book that was supposed to be my second one was actually going to be a zombie story that I still keep pushing back because I keep coming up with all these ideas.
Yeah.
And when that hit me, and I was so nervous about it because said Pursuit, despite not selling, was well received and well reviewed.
Yeah.
And the way I say is, I might have told you a story. My wife is a teacher, and she teaches at a private school, and she has a co-teacher in her class, and she just hired a new girl, and turns out her dad was Ted Talley, the writer of Silence of the Lambs and Red Dragon.
Nice.
And I got a copy of Pursuit in front of him, and he gave me a lot of compliments on it. And then when I gave him My Pet Werewolf, he said, you really challenged yourself on this one with multiple plots. And he gave me a blurb on it, which I'm still in shock of.
That's awesome.
I'm like a nobody, and I could say, recommended by Ted Talley, Academy Award winning screenwriter.
Right.
It's amazing. And so yeah, I definitely, and now the challenge is that, obviously Gunther was never meant to be really a release. It was going to be a freebie for my newsletter subscribers, but again, it was popular. So I'm like, all right, I'm definitely give the people what they want type of guy.
Yeah.
So I released it, and now the trick now with the Dead Children's Playground and then Black Friday after that is, can I live up to that? Because I feel like I did set the bar high, at least in my own opinion.
Yep.
And from what I've heard from readers, that's it. So now it's just, I'm going through this crisis right now where, like, I'll actually be writing the Dead Children's Playground. Like, this sucks. I don't like this. This is too slow. This isn't working. This isn't working. And then I'll go back. I'll think, man, that was really good. I really liked what I wrote there.
Yeah.
And I really like what I'm going to write tomorrow. Then I'll write it tomorrow. I'm like, I don't know about this. Like, you know what? That was like, so I'm really hitting this ping pong effect. And,
Yeah.
I know where the story is. Like I said, the story's completely plotted. Actually, Black Friday is almost completely plotted because that's how I do it. So, It's just a matter of hopefully I execute it now.
I'm not gonna lie, I had a bit of a dry spell after my pet werewolf. I had some trouble getting into books. Not gonna
Well, that's good
lie.
to hear. I feel bad for you, but I'm also happy to hear that.
Tim and I were both doing the same thing. We're like, we tried 2 other buddy reads, and we're like, we don't like either one of these. We just can't do it. It's just not the same.
Yeah.
But anyway, James, thank you so much. This has been a blast.
Oh, I had a lot of fun, guys. It's been great.
I cannot wait for both of your books, the
Awesome.
Dead Children's Playground and Black Friday. Black Friday sounds like a lot of fun. I really
It
hope
is. I'm actually, and that's part of the problem with doing 2 at once. Like sometimes I'm like I can't start physically writing Black Friday until I'm done with. I type the end on Dead Children's Playground. Like
Right.
if I'm out and I'm away from my computer, I'll outline Black Friday. I usually do it by hand. So, but sometimes like, oh man, I just want to start writing this, but I can't neglect the one I got coming out first. So it's
Right.
a challenge, but hopefully you enjoy them both.
Oh, I'm sure I will. I'm sure I will. If not, you'll hear from me.
I'm sure I will. I hope so.
Yeah, absolutely, you will. Mark,
All right.
anything else you want to
Yeah,
say?
no, I just can't wait to be slaughtered horribly